everyone, and welcome back to the second day of the conference of the ETF ENE network, the network for the Centers of Vocational Excellence. It is a great pleasure for my side to be back with you again. Actually, I have to say that yesterday I was really looking forward for the second day to happen, and I'd like to welcome back all of you as participants and as speakers. Before we get started, let's go back to a bit of refreshing in the instructions on how to use Zoom at its best. I hope you already reached the interpretation channels. If not, have a look at this slide and please select the language in which you would like to follow this conference. We have English, French, and Russian available. Please select your preferred option as shown on the slide. To enjoy better the conversation as a participant, I'd like to invite you to select the option Speaker's View so that you can look at immediately who is speaking. And if you'd like to participate in the discussion, which we really encourage and we really would welcome your comments and ideas, please write your comments and questions straight into the chat, and our chat moderators will be kindly passing them to the speakers. Please feel free to intervene anytime, and when time will allow, we will be glad to take them on board. If you want to talk on social media about this event, please feel free to do so, and please use the hashtags ENE Network and hashtag VET Excellence, and don't forget to tag the European Training Foundation handle, which is ETF Europa. One tiny remark: in case your names on Zoom are written in, for example, in Cyrillic or with any other characters, it might be that we are going to rename you, but nothing is going to change as regards the correctness of your name. It's just so that everyone can very easily understand who's taking part in the conversation. For the speakers, I'd like to welcome them on board again for today and thank them. Please keep the mics mute, of course, except when you will be speaking. The slides will be shown by our very kind technical team. So in case you will need to go to the next slide, just please say, next slide, please. And you will be able to see the next slide. I kindly ask you, in order to stick to the agenda, to respect the allocated time. You are able to see a clock as a speaker. And in case of any issue, I will be playing a small sound, which I assume you're all very familiar with now, this one, which will help you stick it to the time. But now let's go back to our business, because we have a very packed day. It's longer than yesterday. We're going to end at 1:15 Central European time. You as participants will have a say much more than it was yesterday today, because we're going to also have a session with breakout groups in which you will be able to share your views and ideas. So please be part of the conversation until the very end. So I'd like now to officially launch the session 4, being the first of today, for the ENE conference, which is about the Centers of Vocational Excellence and Smart Specialization. And I'd like to give the floor to my colleague, Pirita Vuorinen from the European Training Foundation. Over to you, Pirita.
Thank you, Daria, and good morning to all participants. One of the main goals of the European Union is to reduce disparities in the level of development between the regions. And the problem is, this just is not happening. Within countries, some regions are growing much faster than others. They have dynamic businesses, dynamic innovation clusters, and they are able to develop and commercialize internationally significant products and services, while other regions and countries aren't able to do so. So why are some regions better at stimulating competitiveness, productivity, and economic growth? And could others replicate the same model and achieve the same result? The European Commission believes that these approaches to economic growth and competitiveness are in fact replicable. And they have developed tools and approaches to help each region identify their own competitive advantages. They call the approach smart specialization. Today, this approach called smart specialization has spread well beyond the EU, and it has been adopted by many countries, including in ETF partner countries, within national and regional development strategies. So while smart specialization is primarily about the economics of specialization, in this session, we will give you a glimpse of how VET and skills, how they are in fact the engine for smart specialization. So my name, like Daria already said, is Pirita Vuorinen, and I coordinate the ETF team that started in 2019 to test the methodology and an approach to ensure that smart specialization is backed with the right training and is achievable from a human capital perspective. The reason why we at the ETF set out to develop a methodological approach, which we call skills for smart specialization, is that regions and countries that have the right skills are able to do certain things better. They are able to produce more, they are able to produce more complex products and services, they are able to innovate and make products or develop services that are not found everywhere. And finally, because skills can be a really strong attraction to business. Industries that enter a region are often related to the region's current industries, and vice versa is also true. So industries that exit a region tend to be unrelated to other industries in the region. This is because industries are related through their skills. This means that the skill space you have in a region affects your diversification today, but also your diversification tomorrow, and also your possible areas of specialization in the years to come. So these four are the main four factors that make human capital development a key determining factor for smart specialization. If I can now have the slide up so we can show the participants. Can we have the slide up so that we can see what are the areas where ETF has actually been working on skills for smart specialization? So here you see the areas. So the first is sustainable health and tourism. The second is energy efficiency and renewable energy sources. We notably looked at bioenergy in Moldova, for instance. We looked at food processing, wood processing, and furniture manufacturing, and high value added manufacturing. So today we will have 6 speakers, and together we will give you a glimpse into the ETF smart specialization methodology, the findings, and perhaps most importantly, why this should matter to you, the Centers of Vocational Excellence. Our speakers today are Kristiina Mereuta, a senior specialist with the ETF, Jelena Janusevic, who is a national expert who led the research for ETF in Montenegro, even though she's actually now coming to us from the warm Dubai, where she is an associate professor at the Heriot-Watt University. We have Vera Kilari, a well-known expert within the ETF, and she's an educational specialist from Moldova, and she led our research in Moldova. Then we will have Eva Jantsova, who is an expert with the ETF. And then we have 2 speakers from Ukraine. First, we'll have Nino Damenia, who in 2020, when we started to work at the regional level on smart specialization in Ukraine, she was with the Ministry of Economy and led the regionalization of smart specialization in Ukraine. And finally, we have Oleg Madlush, who is from a school of painters, and will tell us why is skills important from a VET point of view in the context of smart specialization. So I propose we get immediately started. My role as a moderator will be a bit diminished in this session because the speakers will also be asking questions to one another. So I propose that we immediately move on to our first speaker, who is Kristiina Mereuta. And I would ask Kristiina, could you give us an overview of the methodology that we first tested in Montenegro?
Thank you,
Kristiina.
Thank you, Pirita, and good morning to everyone that is looking at us now. I think we can move to the next slide just to showcase, I guess, the steps of our methodology. Just to explain you what we did in Montenegro and Moldova, there were indeed several steps, and this involved the analysis of skill supply in demand and demand in the priority areas of smart specialization. And we used both quantitative and qualitative data to provide evidence on skills strengths and gaps. On the demand side, the assessment relies on the various data sources, rather traditional, like the labor force survey or administrative data on employment, unemployment, companies, wages, or vacancies. On the skill supply side, the methodology takes into account the existing education statistics and information, for example, the qualification standards that are developed in the respective areas or relevant for the respective priority areas, programs available at upper secondary education, tertiary education, and in the context of further education available for adults. The quantitative evidence has been enriched with interviews and focus groups with employers and employees working in the respective priority economic areas, but also with education providers and specialists in education, employment, and economic development. Finally, what you see in the upper side of this slide is also we tried to analyze the relatedness between various sectors and subsectors to assess the potential for additional human resources in the priority sectors. And this is done mainly by examining data on employment switches between comparable industries and similarities in terms of skills requirement. Back to you, Irita.
Thanks, Christina. Could you just tell us, it looks very complex. Were there any challenges that you faced in Montenegro?
Okay, definitely. There were a lot of challenges, but thanks to the great statistical office in Montenegro, we managed to overcome some of the challenges. Let me explain why we face these challenges. The priority sector, the priority areas selected under smart specialization are not standalone sectors. Therefore, it's rather difficult to find in the standard statistical classification information on these specific priority areas. They are practically an amalgamation of economic activities. Therefore, thanks to the Ministry of with the Statistical Office, but also thanks to the Ministry of Education, Labor, Employment agencies, we managed to get additional insights on the data we needed for the quantitative side. Yeah, but then the qualitative side involved a large consultation of many stakeholders. And again, I want to underline the advanced stage of development in what it means policy dialogue and stakeholders cooperation in Montenegro. Finally, one point that I think it's great when it comes to transferring information from studies and research into policies. I want to underline that in Montenegro, the Ministry of Education selected our priorities, the findings of the studies, and reflected in the VET strategy. And I want to name only three. One is development of more sensitive human capital statistics and analysis. The second one is indeed to expand initial and continuous training to match the need for skilled workforce in these priority sectors. And finally, something that is very important for the meeting today is also to assess the opportunity of establishment of a specialized training center in renewable energy, one of the priorities selected in Montenegro, but not only, built on the principles of excellence in VET. I completed here my intervention. I hope is clear enough, but there is also, you can find also the report published on the ETF's website. Now I think is the time to move to the other contributor, great contributor, and actually a local expert who made this research possible in Montenegro. So I would like to invite Jelena Janusevic to tell us if the priority sectors, priority areas selected in Montenegro, health, tourism, and renewable energy, show a potential for creation of attractive and new jobs. Yeah, and what is, in your opinion, what is needed to be changed as that this potential is materialized? Please, Jelena, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Christina, and others. Good morning to everyone and good afternoon from Dubai. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Yes, definitely both sectors that we worked on, or subsectors, renewable energy and health tourism, have a great potential to create new jobs with more attractive working conditions in Montenegro. As Christina mentioned, we suffered from a lack of important statistical data, still we were able to identify a positive correlation coefficient for potential intersectoral mobility from shrinking to growing subsectors. And there was a strong relatedness of both sectors with actually construction, transportation, and services. Montenegro definitely have potential also due to geographical position, but also natural resources for these two subsectors. However, many still actions, policy actions, and preconditions still has to be in place. I will mention several. First of all, statistical data. So development of more sensitive human capital related statistics and analysis is definitely needed. Then in Montenegro, we need to consolidate the human capital dimension within government, different government strategies. So labor market data in terms of qualifications, skills, and occupations are not fully reflected in different government strategies. S3 as umbrella strategy for smart specialization still has to be the awareness on this strategy and knowledge sharing on this strategy still has to be enhanced and increased among all stakeholders, employers, employees, and even government entities. Then we need to increase in Montenegro cooperation between industries, educational institutions, and government institutions in this regard. When it comes to the health tourism, we still have here a large gap in strategic framework development. We still don't have here a strategy for health tourism, and this has to be developed. When it comes to the educational sector per se, we need to update and increase education offer when it comes to the trainings in these two specific subsectors, different trainings which are related and don't exist actually for these, let's say, operating and maintenance of the solar plants, then aesthetic medical and so on, not to spend too much time now on this. Two more points because of the time constraint. Key competencies and transversal skills should be acquired through the school system in the first place, but also through lifelong learning. The main gaps that are identified by employers are interpersonal skills, ICT, of course, but also language skills and soft skills. And I will just end with this final one. So to secure competitive and sufficiently skilled workforce for these prioritized sectors, better links between IVET and CVET has to be reinforced. A need for innovative and flexible forms of education and training need to meet needs for SMEs and family-led businesses. Thank you. I hope I'm within the time.
Perfect. Thank you, Jelena. At this point, I would just like to ask our friends to take down the slide. So we don't need the slide at this point. I would also invite participants, as we're starting to develop the conversation a bit, to insert your questions into the chat. You can do so in French, Russian, or English. I can take them from the chat. Do ask your questions as we go along, and we will try and answer them at the end of the session or even within it. Now, thank you, Jelena, again, and Christina. I would like to propose we move to Vera in Moldova. And Vera, could you tell us about when you started working on this assessment, what were the findings? Did you find that there is currently already relevant education and training provision in Moldova to support smart specialization?
Thank you, Perita, for your question. At first sight, your question seems to require a simple answer with yes or no, but in fact, it is a complex one. I will try to be laconic but specific in my answer at the same time, referring to the field of energy and the focus on renewable energy. Education is mainly provided by universities, colleges, centers of excellence, and professional schools, which are distributed across different regions of the country. At the same time, the Center of Electrical Energy Systems provides innovative solutions and offers PhD and master programs in the field of renewable energy and energy efficiency as well. Thus, by and large, sufficient and to some extent relevant education programs exist at all levels. However, despite the presence of a sufficient number of training providers with good potential and an adequate number of annual graduates, skills imbalances characterized with both skills shortages and skill gaps are still haunting the field. The growing sector of renewable energies raises new expectations, changing the skills requirements within the existing occupations and give rise to new qualification and skills needs. Apart from that, in the context of aging population in the country and rocketing trends of immigration phenomenon in the last years, vocational learning plays a growing role in the continuing development of adults. Yet, the CVET is underdeveloped, and companies are likely to provide training ad hoc training themselves. Thus, the value of EVET tends to dissipate over time due to the lack of a well-functioning CVET. In addition, I can't but mention that the VET system is separated from the innovation service needs of companies, being limited to the provision of educational programs and mostly supply-driven. However, the good news is that VET institutions, particularly the centers of excellence, have good potential and are more oriented towards technology dissemination even than universities, as they have a more practical and incremental focus on web-based learning and potential to territorial dissemination. To wrap up, it takes two to tango, or in other words, solving the skills mismatch challenges lies in the hands of education and training providers, no doubt, as well as employees, the state, and individuals. So they act collectively and share responsibilities. Thank you. Back to you, Pirita.
Thank you, Vera. Can I just ask you a further question? One of the areas that really emerged as a new domain in Moldova was bioenergy, which is really growing. And there are several countries like Finland and Sweden where 30% of the renewable energy production is actually comes from bioenergy. Actually, whole energy production comes from bioenergy, and the vast majority of that is provided by SMEs. Has this been considered in Moldova, and how is SME training incorporated into the bioenergy sphere?
Well, of course, it's not the case in Moldova. It's not the case of Finland and other developed countries. But what I can say is that in Moldova, SMEs represent more than 98% of all enterprises, being an essential driver of job creation, and their role in learning development is more important than ever. Well, yet at present, they are only at the beginning to harness their potential of training provision. And it is likely that this potential, with some support, will continue to grow.
Super, thank you, Vera, so much. Now that we've wrapped up the Montenegro and Moldova part where we worked at national level, let's move to the regional level, and let's ask the ETF expert that led the regionalization dimension in Ukraine, where we started this. Let's ask Eva, what were the changes that were done to the methodology that were earlier presented by Christina? What were the changes that we decided to implement in Ukraine at regional level?
Thank you, Pirita, and I will ask for our last slide. So, of course, we faced many challenges in the first phase, and so we had to learn from that. So at a more technical level, we faced a problem with data, which was already mentioned by Elena and Christina. So more detailed and reliable data at subsectoral or regional level are the key and were missing to a large extent. Therefore, we strengthened actually the qualitative part of our analysis. However, what we felt most was that we needed to strengthen the vision, the national or regional vision with regards to the future skills for smart specialization priority areas, and also to support the dialogue and exchange of good practices between the region or the country and the innovation leaders from the relevant relevant domains. Therefore, building on the preliminary analysis of skills demand and skills supply, we introduced two additional elements, the elements of foresight and partnership for responding to skills needs, or the peer learning partnership. And through this, we actually aim to build a vision for skills together with regional administration, education and training providers, but also businesses. And in this way, we also arrive to more robust and shared strategies for addressing the skills needs coming from the priority areas for smart specialization. And this also then lays a ground for peer learning with EU region with matching smart specialization priorities. And this is something what we are currently doing in two regions of Ukraine, in Rivne and Kharkiv, where together with the regional authorities, we are working on the vision for wood processing and furniture manufacturing and value-added manufacturing. So in the end, this methodology should allow us to assess the current skills demand, identify the skills gaps and shortages, build a vision for future skills, but also to assess the capacity of current training provision to respond to those needs. So in addition, then, through the partnership, that is the last element, it offers actually the practical guidance on how to develop the training provision to respond to the demand implied by smart specialization. And now actually I would like to ask Nino, our specialist in smart specialization from Ukraine, to tell about her experience. So Nino, the smart specialization in Ukraine is actually ongoing. So what is, according to you, the value added of looking at smart or at skills implications of smart specialization? Nino.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eva. Thank you very much, Perita, as well. I wanted to say that the smart specialization is the great pillar for the regional development, because when we are talking about such a big country as Ukraine, and we have 27 regions, it's impossible to have the same approach and the same priorities for all the regions. The same as the skills for the regions, because I saw the question about what are the priority skills for smart industries. It's impossible to have the list of top priority skills. The list of skills will be different for each region. That's why, as the side of the policymaker in Ukraine, it was decided to have the smart specialization for the regions, and that's why this methodology for building the gaps between the skills and the actual priorities in the region is very important, because I'm sure that it's the same in all the countries, but in Ukraine we have quite a joint system of planning how much and which specialist we need, and it's not so custom made for the needs of the businesses. It's not so custom made for demand of the businesses. And actually, one of the very important thing is to prognose what kind of skills we will need for the next period of time. And I think that the best way to show these gaps and to understand what is the needs is to ask the businesses and also to ask the VAT school providers. So I think that it's very good to ask our colleague Oleg Magdich, who is the head of the School of Painters, about his expectations on how smart specialization is likely to affect the demand for skills in Rivne, for example. Please, Oleg.
Yes, thank you. Our company provides a full range of painting materials for furniture industry for the last 15 years, and we provide consulting and
L'entreprise pour laquelle je travaille
both for small
est active depuis 15 ans.
And large Ukrainian furniture factories.
Et nous fournissons la peinture.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing someone in my.
L'orateur dit qu'il entend quelqu'un.
Quality materials and new equipment alone were not enough to increase the productivity for our customers, only because there is a lack of trained painters.
Alors,
In
il y a un
Ukraine, there
manque
is no institution that would teach painters, wood painters.
professionnel.
We created a program and launched a private school to train painters for our clients. And since 2018, we were able to run 18 schools training 172 people total. We want our country to prosper. That's why we do what we do. And there are many layers to Ukrainian economy boost, but there are two things that will affect that growth: education and competitiveness. Woodworking and furniture industry will suffer if they invest in materials and equipment, but not in people and technology. We want Ukrainian furniture companies to think and work towards things like environmental awareness, renewable economy, etc. Because European furniture companies are coming to Ukraine to spend, and they're spending money to build huge factories only because the labor is cheap. As soon as Ukrainian economy will rise up, they would have to spend more money to keep their workers, and eventually they would have to leave the country. It's obvious. So we dream of Ukrainian regions to start building on their own competitive advantages, innovating and specializing in producing unique goods and services. Ukrainian regions have to be focused on knowledge-intensive goods and services. It will provide growth and increase income for the workers in Ukraine. And as a result, Ukraine will stop being a raw material appendage and will become a self-sufficient player on the world's market. That's what we believe, that's what we're working for. And we believe that smart specialization is a key in this process.
Thank you, Oleg. So focus on people. This is a smart specialization focuses on the economics, and the skills of smart specialization focuses specifically on skills. So the two go hand in hand. There was a few questions in the chat, so let's take them. One of the things that has really attracted the attention of the participants is the skills relatedness. So interoccupational mobility. Are we able to measure that? Let me start with Eva, if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit what we did or trying to do in Ukraine in order to see how people move. I mean, obviously the reason is that this gives us a bigger pool of people to work with through upskilling rather than to expect people to come through the training tube. So how do we look at the relatedness? Over to you, Eva.
Thank you, Birita. So, of course, looking at the relatedness is quite a complex exercise, and it requires actually quite good data. So what we are trying to do now in Ukraine is to look at administrative pension data, which allow us actually to see where workers move. So we can see from whether workers, for example, from wood processing, they move to other sectors, to other occupations, and we can understand the skills relatedness of different subsectors in this way. So, of course, the data or having the data is the key, and we are trying to actually see how far we can go. But it's also an exciting moment, an exciting way of the usage of the existing data. So to see where actually what subsectors are related and where the skills are moving to and from.
Yelena, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I cannot more agree with Eva, and we know very well how much we suffered and what exercises we did in order to try to use this data, which actually didn't have that level of disaggregation that we needed for our analysis. So the only what we could do for Montenegro, for example, is to find this level of general correlation between certain subsectors. Our priority were health, tourism, and renewables. But as I posted even in the chat area, detail analysis or more details we didn't have the level of the data, the disaggregated to the level that could help us to do much more in detail analysis and to provide this much more precise relation between these subsectors. So as I mentioned in my short addressing to you, we found the relatedness between these two subsectors and other subsectors, but deeper we couldn't go actually. And that's why this is priority actually to the next step that has to be done.
Yeah, I think the main issue that we find, people always ask us this question, how do we deal with the data? Well, we find a way. When there's a will, there's a way. We don't always find exactly the data that we want to find, but we work with proxies and we're able to come to the point where we want. And we hope that in Ukraine, we will get access to the pension fund data, which will allow us to really explore this issue deeper. So thank you. There's a question on what is the role of vet providers in smart specialization? Where in the future, when we're moving forward, Oleg, you already referred to that a little bit, but where do you see your role in the future in providing education and training in the wood processing and furniture manufacturing? Where do you see the future? What would you like to see your center 10 years from now? What would be your role in smart specialization?
We dream of our training center, that our training center would not exist in 10 years. We want the government to take that role and to provide the training for the industry. We're doing it only because nobody does it, but our abilities are limited. So we want to partner with the government to launch a training program for not only for painters, but for many different industries.
Thank you, Oleg. I think there's just one message I think we can collectively pass to the participants that who are centers of excellence, is that in this approach that we're now implementing at the regional level in Ukraine. Oh, sorry, there's Nino has her hand up. Sorry, I'm just noticing that now. Before I go there, let me pass over to Nino.
Yeah, thank you, Pirita. I wanted just to add about what is the role of vet in the process of smart specialization, is that in the perfect world, the vet providers have to build their own programs and their plans in the needs of the smart specialization for their own very region, because we have a lot of specialists that are that are trained for skills that are not so popular and not so needed in the region. So the role of the VAT in the process of smart specialization is the same important as the all stakeholders, because it have to be combined work and joint work on the same priorities for whole of the region. Thank you.
Thank you. I will pass over to Christina. We're being asked if you can turn your camera around before you.
I hope now it's okay. I only hope. I just want to quickly feed in on this discussion and also to reflect on certain points that were raised in chat. I mean, beyond data and information that we can explore, it has to be somehow also transferred into policy, services, access, and access to upskilling and reskilling programs. Data and information are crucial for career guidance and counseling. If we don't have this regular and reliable information, is rather difficult to provide good quality career guidance services that would direct future workforce and current workforce to these smart specialization potential areas and so on. What we noticed also in Montenegro, but not only, is that there is a huge potential for vet internationalization, because just to take into consideration the renewable sector, yes, the renewable energy sector, where the technology innovation is huge. It's a huge component with impact on skills demand and so on, but rather narrow skills that you cannot reflect on, in the ordinary normal education programs. There is a room for collaboration among vet centers to really provide this type of skills together and to reflect and to have more or less the same standardization across sectors. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. So there's a couple more questions about craftsmanship, specialization in craftsmanship. So let me say this, and we will end on this note. But we have been working in Ukraine at the subnational level, so in 2 regions on skills of smart specialization. One of the regions, called Rivne, is specializing in woodworking and furniture manufacturing. So craftsmanship definitely plays a role there. And in fact, in that region, design is something that's highly highlighted. We've brought in partners from the Netherlands and from Estonia, and we're looking at other partners from Denmark. Really vet providers who work in the same industry and want to collaborate. They have a mutual interest in talking to one another, and we are just the actor that puts them together. So if you have interest in joining this discussion, I would just simply ask you, I will put my email into the chat after this conversation, and drop me an email and we can see how we can connect you to that conversation. I'm sure the Ukrainians and the Dutch and the Estonians would welcome you in this discussion. So it's really among vet providers, very tangible conversation. The other area that we're working on now in Ukraine is the Kharkiv region, where we're specializing, where the region is specializing in advanced manufacturing. And there, the specialization is specifically tractor manufacturing. So we now have partners who are focusing on tractor manufacturing specifically. Green Engines from Turkey that have just today confirmed to us that they will join us in Kharkiv in this discussion. We also have 2 vet providers, or actually 1 vet provider from Italy that is specializing in advanced manufacturing with the car industry, and another center from the Basque country that specializes in supporting vet centers in connecting SMEs to innovation. So if those are areas that you're working in and you're interested in joining a very hands-on conversation between regional authorities and vet providers on this topic, then do drop us an email and we will be happy to see how we can accommodate you into that conversation. So very tangible there, opportunity for those of you who work in those areas. That's it from our team. This is just a small sample of our team. There's a much bigger team behind us, and we work in very close cooperation with a variety of actors in our partner countries, and we're just in the supporting role as ETF. That's it from us. Thank you to all our speakers, and I pass the floor back to Daria.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pirita, and all speakers for this super interesting presentation and conversation. I've seen it was highly participated, which is always a great index of interest. Before we move to the next session, I'd like all participants to be very attentive now, even more than before, because I have a technical announcement for each and every one of you. I kindly ask you to please rename yourself on Zoom. How you do so? You take your mouse, you move your mouse pointer on your picture, and 3 dots will appear on a blue background on the top right corner of your picture. You should please click on the 3 dots and then rename yourself. And how you should rename yourself? You should please write first your name, then your last name, and then your organization, and all these please in Latin characters, so no other alphabets, sorry, just for the sake of making the participation to the breakout rooms easier. So after you have done this, you can go back and enjoy the next session, and our technical team will be supporting you and adding to your renaming some extra items, so that then you will be automatically be sent to a breakout room. These will happen after session 5, so we have plenty of time also for you to rename it. Thank you very much. And in case of any doubt on how to do this, because I understand I was quick in explaining the process, don't hesitate to write in the chat asking for help. And my colleagues will be helping you out as regards this process. And this, I think it's all from the technical side. I'm just checking if I forgot. No, another very important thing is some of you have raised the issue that you cannot switch on your camera. don't worry, you will be allowed to switch on the camera right before the breakout session so that you will be able to see also and show your face to the other participants. And this will happen again after session 5. For any doubt, the chat is there to help you out. Thank you very much for being patiently listening to my technical explanation. And now I know there's better things to listen to, but this is very important to facilitate our interaction because we are here to interact as a network. I now officially launch, please, session 5. Session 5, which, as you will see very soon in a slide which will be shown, is a panel discussion with initiatives and networks, and which will focus on the future, on programs, on themes, and how to network and develop. Be very attentive to the discussions because the topics which will be discussed, green entrepreneurship and social inclusion, will be also tackled right after in the breakout group. But now I give the floor to my colleague, Susanne Nilse from the European Training Foundation. The floor is yours, Susanne.
Thank you very much, Tarja. Yes, indeed, this session has 3 parts where we place the spotlight on 3 new areas of cooperation within the ENE network, 3 new areas for knowledge sharing and practice exchange. The areas are going green, the second is entrepreneurship, and the third is social inclusion. In this session, my colleagues will facilitate panel discussions in relation to these 3 new areas in the ENE network, where the purpose is to discuss challenges and the skills implications, and also to present inspiring practices and examples on how centers of vocational excellence can engage. After the coffee break, yes, indeed, you have the opportunity to engage, to share your thoughts and ideas on how we should work, how we should exchange and learn from each other in these 3 areas in the frame of the ENE network. Now I'm happy to give the online floor to my colleague Anastasia Festi, who will be facilitating the first panel discussion on going green. So Anastasia, the online floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susanne. I would like to say everybody hello, and we are happy to see you so numerous in this conference that we are having these 2 days. As Susanne said, the purpose of this session it is to discuss skills for excellence and innovation in the green and digital era. So we take green and digital together. And I would like to present the panelists of our session, Christian Mati from EIT Climate Kick, and Marie-José Barriola from Technica. Just a small reflection from my part on why are we discussing this issue of greening today, and why are we discussing it so much in general. And I think that there are good reasons to do so. It is because we all understand that the health of our planet, of nature, of human beings as part of the nature is quite in danger. We have experienced, I think directly or indirectly, all of us, the impact of environmental degradation, lack of biodiversity, extreme weather conditions in one way or the other. So this discussion about climate action, to do something to change this situation of the planet today is part of the discussions for some time now. But recently it has become much more forceful, and the action has become also more intense. That we can see at international level through the Paris agreements, through the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. And we can see it also at the European level with the European Green Deal, that it is the new growth strategy of Europe that shapes all policies really at European level, but it also guides the discussion of cooperation with countries outside the European Union. I have also to say that the reason why we are discussing greening and digitalization today, it is because this transition towards greening and greener and digital societies is part of the logic for the recovery process after COVID pandemic. So it has a real value on how we will move into a new normal, whatever it is, and it has the aspiration to support new economic activities. And in fact, we do see the private sector responding to this challenge in a number of sectors like agriculture, like construction, like energy. We heard before by our colleagues, all these sectors that need new skills to become greener and take advantage of digital, and not only digital, in general technologies. I have also finally to say that these policy messages that are passing at international and European level, they are accompanied by financial means. So there are new financial instruments that actually push forward the greening and digitalization of our economies and societies. So there is a whole dynamic that is being developed. And of course, the question is, can we go ahead without people? Sometimes we name people skills, but I would put the emphasis really on people. People who are responsible for what they do as consumers and producers, people who are able to make the best of the new technologies to work towards a greener society and more inclusive, but this is an issue of another panel we will see afterwards, and people who are entrepreneurial, innovative, who are creative to act and interact with others in a more sustainable way of living and doing. So having said that, highlighting the importance of this topic and the fact that things are happening in this area, I would like to ask Christian to put us a little bit in the context of all this discussion. What does this green and digital transition means for skills? What are the implications and what should we pay attention to? Christian, the floor to you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Matti. I'm head of strategic research at Climate Kick. I have been working for several years in this kind of battles between science, policy, and practice to make some concepts as system innovation and sustainability transitions happen in the ground. And for doing so, we have explored the different set of skills and competence that we need to work at systemic level. My presentation is going to be very much on bringing some kind of provocations about what are the key questions that we need to face in terms of this challenge of moving green and digital, and providing an example about what is the expectations about the transformation that we are expecting to happen. So if we can have the next slide, please. So the big challenge is understanding what systemic innovation stands for in terms of being inclusive, being transformative, and also incorporating other challenges as digitalization and new governance configuration. So what actually means being green, systemic, and digital transformation? So we need to start from very simple concepts. So next slide, please. So we are very much used to have footloose conversations. This is the way that has been organized in society and policy in different departments and different ministries. So we can have a climate discussion, industry, innovation, research and science, and society was kind of playing a role more as a kind of a responsive rather than active. Obviously, other topics as energy and agricultural issues has been taken very much as a kind of more specialized, sophisticated elements. So the challenge of becoming green and systemic means that we need to integrate this as part of a transformation in the system by looking at how all these elements are interconnected. That's the only way that we can achieve a radical transformation, like rethinking the way these elements work together. So next slide, please. So the opportunities that we have is that this society is already very much engaged in this kind of systemic discussion. So systemic innovation in general means like we just rethink the way that we work and the different components and the relation of the system. And one concrete example is smart specialization as a kind of a concept that says how we can understand much better our strengths and recombine those strengths into something that can bring more value to our regional development. A hot topic right now is circular economy, and it's a good excuse to learn the systemic innovation. Obviously, it has specific elements about circularity, but really push the idea about reconnecting the different elements in a different way. Last but not least, the digital economy. I think we still need to understand what does it mean moving forward to just thinking about apps and just knowledge digitalizations. It means a different way to work together and in a different location and a different practice. So for doing so, it's not just we just jump and we just switch on something and we just press a button. It's a process in which we need to engage in designing new things. Next slide, please. So prototyping, co-design, and collaboration used to be a fancy word, but now is the reality. We need to engage all these kind of actors and all this kind of process in the kind of the new process that we need to set in order to be transformative. And this is not a kind of a biblical type of expression. The reality is that we really take a risk if the people that needs to be in the discussion are not in the table, because the other people will see how the risk of not having the right people are going to affect the discussion. So prototyping, co-design, and collaboration now is kind of a backbone of make it systemic, because we really need to include the different elements and components in order to make it happen. Next slide, please. The truth is that now the context is that we have the multi-level governance configuration. We have all these commitments from the SDGs, the COVID, the Paris Agreement, the Green Deal, and all of them needs to work together. And that's part of the logic of the policy mix that has been very broadly discussed during the last 10 years about how we combine local, regional, national, and even global discussion as part of this discussion. This full set of elements is part of the challenge of being green and being systemic. So the key question is, can we just use the same practices and skills to face this challenge? Well, probably the answer is no. So next slide, please. Next slide.
Mati?
Yes.
We need to close, I was told.
Okay. So the idea is that we cannot use the same knowledge and only integrate and combine. We just need to think that we need to move beyond digital tools. We need to see how this is, there is an emphasis on citizen engagement. What does it mean? And we need to incorporate a kind of a systemic approach in terms of the new practices, cross-sectoral, cross-ministerial, and even cross-level type of activities are new as part of the practice that we need. So I'm just going to move to the next slide, and I'm going to finish there as a kind of a provocation. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yes. So to better understand the knowledge that we need to produce in order to face this challenge and supporting the decision making, we need to think about what is actually actionable knowledge and how we can make it effective. So as you can see in the figure, there are a collection of new competence that we need to address. And I was listening to the last panel about smart specialization, and there was this issue about data. Data for monitoring, but data for decision making, but also for prototyping and understanding how we can move to new actions. So the challenge goes really beyond combining what we know. It's very much about understanding that working together in this way requires to rethink the skill set that we need in order to be systemic, green, and also incorporate all the benefits that the digital economy can bring in terms of making the data and the knowledge more accessible for everyone, not just for citizens and policymakers, but also for business and education. So that being said, I hope that this can help to inspire a little bit the discussion about rethinking the skill set that we need for the transformation into green, digital, and entrepreneurial economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian, for this inspiring presentation. So it is all about interconnection, is collaboration, and about making sense of data and the interaction among people and institutions. And now we go quickly to our second panelist, Marie-José from Technica, who will give us practical examples of how we can put these things in practice. So, Marie-José, can you tell us what you have done in Technica?
Okay, hello and good morning, everybody. I had some technical problems before, so I hope you can hear me and say to me. On behalf of Technica, it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning, sharing my work related with bioscience and sustainability area in Technica. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me and offering me this opportunity to show the work that we do. Technica is a center promoted by the Deputy Ministry of Vocational Educational Training on the Education Department of the Basque Government. We work on innovation for vocational educational technical centers and the business fabric in the files of, you can see in the first slide. We have different areas or different departments here in Technica. The first one is related with technical innovation and intelligent system. The second one is complexity management. The third one is related with learning and high performance. The fourth is related with internationalization. We have a department, we work with applied innovation in static settings, and our area is the bioscience and sustainability. So we work to make applied research and innovation to backbone of Basque Country vocational educational training to reduce the competence gap from the start of the idea of a technology until it's applied in a small and medium-sized companies. Our principal aim is to transfer all the knowledge that we create here in Technica with collaboration with all the vocational educational training centers in the Basque Country. Please, the second slide. Again, please. Okay, so our principal aim is the sustainable human development. 3 words that define the way that we work in Technica towards to do a better world. So we think the education is the only direction for teaching and learning for the future we want. So let me explain what we do with some examples. You use technology in the applied research we do, and of course we do so sustainable because we are responsible for the planet that we give to our children. Most important is focusing on humanity. So we have, as I told you before, 3 different lines of work. As you can see, the first one is related with agro-food, natural and ocean environment. In this work, in this line, we work in a bioeconomics network with different vocational educational training schools. We have changed our working, and nowadays we do multidisciplinary projects with the students and teachers from different professional, family and activities working together on projects related, as you can see, the use of drones, the circular economy, agro-food, among others. In the center, you can see the second line. The second line is related with sustainable construction. This morning, we heard a lot about timber construction and construction in general. Here, wood and furniture industries, green and civil construction, electronics, electricity, and of course, community services, very important. All work together in order to approach the construction projects, developing and humanizing technology that people need at home, at work, and work so on. And the third line, in the right, you can see related with health, environment, and biotechnology. In this half, we are very focused on biotechnology and aging in order to improve people's well-being. Let me show you some examples that we are working with the students in the next slide. Next slide, please.
Marie-José, we have to finish in 1 minute.
Okay, yeah. Here you can see some examples. Culinary schools, food industry schools, dietetic schools, agrarian schools are working together. In the center, you can see around a table different specialties related with construction. We have been able to build a miniature, a tiny house, and elderly people that came vocational training schools are talking with the students. So we work technology, we work sustainability, and we work together. The timber project in the last slide is the example too. So next slide, please. We work here the timber construction, promoting the timber construction, as you can see, promoting the local timber and local forest with institutions, with different activities in the vocational education and training schools, as well as training in the different points of this value chain, with the purpose of contributing the medium and long term improving the wood and timber industry. So thank you very much.
I thank you very much. It was really interesting, and I really hope that our participants will be able to be in touch with Technica so that this knowledge that you have developed be shared with others too and inspire others. Thank you very much, both of you, for your contributions. And I pass the floor to Suzanne to go to the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you from my side. And I really look forward to continue the discussion in the breakout rooms after the coffee break, where I will be leading the one on going green and being digital. And there's indeed a lot to exchange on, and also to involve our participants on how they would like to cooperate in these areas. But as the time is a challenge in this well-packed session, I would just now immediately go to the next area of our session, the new area for ENE Network, which is entrepreneurship. And I would like just to make clear that despite this area was not listed in the registration form for the conference, indeed, this will be a priority area from this onwards. And we are actually to see that there's a particular large interest of the participants to be part of the breakout groups after the coffee break relating to entrepreneurship. But not to take up any further time, with pleasure now, I give the online floor to my colleague, Maria Vittoria Galapi, who will be facilitating the next panel discussion. Over to you, Maria Victoria.
Thank you, Suzanne. Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today. And let's move immediately to the Entrepreneurial TVET Center. What is it? What is it about? How far is it different from what we know? Of course, the Entrepreneurial Training Center relies and is inspired by the concept of entrepreneurship as a key competence, which has to do with business startup, but not only. Is much broader, is very much in line with innovation, with creativity, and with making value out of the ideas of everybody in the society, be it the youngsters, be it the civil society, be it the public administration. Not all the enterprises are left with creativity and innovation. So without elaborating too far for now on theoretical terms, let's see a country and a country experience where this concept has been put in place. And I mean here to give the floor to Tunisia, where 2 years ago, together with the Ministry of Vocational Education and Training, we started a very interesting pathway to set up and consolidate entrepreneurial TVET centers. So I would like to ask my colleague from Tunisia, Mr. Mustafa Lakeal, from the Tunisian Agency of Vocational Education and Training, why Tunisia went for entrepreneurial TVET centers. While Mustafa takes the floor, I invite all participants to look at the chat where you will find the deliverables of the Tunisian experience, together with a short concept note with initial reflections of what an entrepreneurial TVET center is about. Mustafa, are you with us?
Oui, merci.
Bonjour.
Yes.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone.
D'avoir,
Thank you, Maria Vittoria, for presenting the experience that we're currently rolling out in Tunisia. We are currently developing this Center for Entrepreneurship in Tunisia. Wanted to stress the fact that this approach draws upon human capital. We have tried to think outside of the box and not think only about performance as something being productive, but as performance in a holistic way. And we believe that performance relies on human capital and not on a set of structures. So we talk about skills for individuals that we try to then roll out within an organization. We work in a framework of co-creation. We believe that it is important to address this co-creation process. And this co-creation process has enabled us to better foster entrepreneurship. And I believe this is the innovative approach that we have. This is the framework we are currently developing for our entrepreneurship center. There are a number of reasons for which Tunisia chose that approach. We have been working with the ETF since 2015.
Oui. Ah, d'accord, encore une minute. Donc, nous travaillons avec ETF depuis 2015.
We have been collaborating with the ETF since 2015 on entrepreneurship.
Nous avons développé tout un processus et nous considérons que ce processus doit être couronné par...
We believe that this process should lead to the implementation of new bodies fostering entrepreneurship. And specifically, it needs to lead to the creation of new companies. But we have been working on a vocational training in that regard. And in order to foster this approach, we must ensure that VET centers are part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And we should also ensure that these centers are value drivers in the different regions where they're implanted. It's a challenge for Tunisia. And one of the main challenges is to transform governance that is mostly turned on employers and unions. We should now look to civil society, the youth, funding bodies, in order to bring together every stakeholder in the entrepreneurship ecosystem on the Tunisian territory.
Désolé, Mustafa.
Sorry, Mustafa. The situation is quite complex. We have to respect the time that is given to us.
Groupe de travail. On ira beaucoup plus en détail sur l'expérience.
So we will address this during the workshop. And we will look at the future for such an approach down the line in the workshop.
To what we did in Tunisia as a basis for inspiration for our partnership under the COVES. And I would like to invite Ellen, who is an expert in entrepreneurship as a key competence. We work together, as Mustafa said, in a co-design mood in Tunisia, co-design approach. What did we develop, Ellen? What are the key dimensions of an entrepreneurial TVET center? Thank you. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Maria Vittoria. Can we move to the next slide, please? Great, thank you very much. Now, I was very pleased to be involved in this. This was all about trying to understand really and demystify the different elements that relate to the development of how we can be more entrepreneurial as a vet center. And really, this was a process where we spoke, we discussed, we really interacted with a number of different vet centers across Tunisia, supported by the government and the Agency for Vocational Education and Training and other colleagues, to co-create 100% online, because we were just starting when the COVID pandemic hit. And so we led online co-creation meetings, really consulting across the sector in Tunisia to understand what they saw as the key factors making each center more entrepreneurial. And what it really came down to is we could see that it was all about people within the ecosystem that we needed to engage, support, capacity build, inform, really to bring them together in a vision of what an entrepreneurial vet center can be and how that can be implemented by the people involved in this ecosystem. So within the circle that you see here on the screen, you can see that we're looking at leadership. We're looking at the leaders and the managers. We're looking at the stakeholders, the ecosystem around the vet center. You can see that we're looking at the staff, not only trainers, but also pedagogical staff and administrative staff, and we're looking at the learners. And when you look across this, you see that this is about engaging, informing and supporting them to come together to truly understand their own capacity to take this forward, to contribute, to work together towards an entrepreneurial vision for this vet center, but also then to deliver this through how they work. Now, for leaders, we can see that this is about setting a culture across the institution that everybody can be part of, listening. Also, of course, looking at the ways in which they can be entrepreneurial, income generation, supporting the development, the strategy of an institution. When we look at stakeholders and ecosystem, we see them as being a partner in the skills development of a region or a national entity, but is looking at their active participation across then entrepreneurial training and learning, looking at them being involved in the design, the development, delivery, perhaps the assessment of that training and education in order to bring them into the process. Because ultimately, often TVET is about supporting our learners to really go into the labor market and support these stakeholders, these businesses, this ecosystem to thrive economically and socially. When we look at staff, the feedback from our colleagues in Tunisia was very much that we needed to help people to understand these active pedagogies that we're talking about. We needed to listen, ensure that their voice is heard as part of the institution and its entrepreneurial development, and to train them on how to deliver entrepreneurial learning within each subject, every program within an institution, as well as around that. I have 1 minute.
No, less, 10 seconds.
Okay, and then we have learners, developing learners, and helping them to understand the power of these competencies, entre-comp competencies, and supporting them to recognize and develop that through their careers. And this can be an inspiration, a starting point for the development of an ENE pillar for the Entrepreneurial TVET Center.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eileen. And sorry, we went a bit quickly, but in the working group, we will go a bit more in detail. Already this diagram gives us the flavor of the richness of our work so far, of the several dimensions of this holistic approach that we co-developed in a completely digital way last year. Thank you. So this is Tunisia, it's already a lot, but what can we do more and better? Also in the framework of the ENE network. And to try to answer these questions, I would like to give the floor to Dana Redford, who is a consultant in entrepreneurship and a professor with a particular angle on technology. So Dana, we heard about the beauty of Tunisia, but what more and better can we do to make an entrepreneurial TVET center? 3 minutes, thanks.
Well, good morning to everybody. And I just wanted to thank the ETF team and also say what I think is a very fruitful exchange between what is going on in Europe in the coves, which I've been had the privilege to be involved with. So I really appreciate José Manuel and Georgios and you, Maria Victoria, for this opportunity. I think that there is lots that we can learn. We have some excellent best practices in Europe, led in the Netherlands by Bodwin, who's here, and also in Italy by Paolo Nardi, and we can really reflect and also I think the experiences of Tunisia very for what João Santos and everybody is doing in Europe. Yes. So exploring in terms of the potential, I think that we need to recognize the student, and the student's role is key. We need to be able to be branding around the student. We need to have the student and the employer understand that it's really key that this is a signal to the market. We can think about it is looking at how the student is the value has to be driven to the student. The next thing I would say is that we need to build on what has been an extremely interesting experiment in terms of the COVID and moving online with digital skills. Ellen touched on the ecosystem. I think this is key. This is one of the things that the Coves actually does, and I think is most exciting for the development of entrepreneurship, is how in the Coves you have this interaction of the local ecosystem and entrepreneurship. So connecting those dots is key. In terms of entrepreneurial learning, we really need to change the way that teachers are teaching, and this is actually a key issue, and also go through the process of passing through each step and trying to become better in each moment. In terms of fostering entrepreneurial TVET, one of the areas in which I've focused on is ecosystems, and here we talk about engaging stakeholders, looking at who are the champions, who are the conveners, and this is something that Ellen touched on as well. And finally, I would say that it's about access points and intersections. These are key aspects of how an ecosystem works, as well as the stories that people tell. And this is something that's key in terms of how you can market and understand and get more both students and teachers and institutions involved. And finally, I would just make one small note, which is to expect the unexpected. In work that I did in Angola for the United Nations, actually the teachers became more entrepreneurial. So we really have some wonderful things that we can learn from all of these situations. It's a pleasure to learn from Tunisia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, the three panelists that have been very short. We will continue in the working groups, but so what I can take away is that entrepreneurial vet centers are about changing the culture in the centers and changing it for everybody, not just the teachers, but also the school directors, with a strong focus on the learners, be it in initial training, be it in lifelong learning perspective. It has also to do with governance. So a different governance, not only employers are important, but also the community, the civil society around the center, and every citizen around the center. So governance is an important aspect of an entrepreneurial TVET center. And of course, a different way of teaching and learning, a different way of assessing entrepreneurship as a key competence. So thank you very much and see you later in the working groups. Back to you, Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Maria Vittoria. And also I thank you from my side to our three panelists for sharing viewpoints, insights, and experience on what it takes to facilitate the entrepreneurial spirit, the entrepreneurial culture in TVET systems and in TVETs. I will not take up further time. I think we should jump directly now to the last and third part of this session, a new area to be introduced in the ENE network. This is social inclusion. And with pleasure, I give the online floor to my colleague, Lida Kita, who will lead us through the last panel discussion on social inclusion. So Lida, please, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, and good day to everybody. This is the last session for inclusion, or sometimes exclusion, as we make fun among ourselves in the teams. The panel is organized by having two experiences that come from the provision side, and they will tell us at the country level and at the international cooperation level how they tackle the issue of exclusiveness of the young people and what they are doing for making the skills that they provide inclusive. Now, by listening to the yesterday and today, you hear all these things and you think, oh my God, so much is demanded on the skills for the young people and how the system is adapting itself or moving ahead to facilitate that. Because we talk about the skills for inclusion, which is the skills dimension for employability, the social mobility dimension, the socialization dimension of it, the civic dimension, the equity dimension. You hear it in all the discussions. But let's be honest, I mean, we have been talking about the social inclusion, but it's so much, can I say, lip service? In the sense that we talk about it, but we don't go deep down what it means. And also most of the time, what has dominated the discussion is the corrective approach that addresses existing exclusion, the marginalized groups, the disadvantaged group. COVID showed to us that we are all marginalized. The situations can put us in different situations. So I stop it here. But these two discussions, it's the direct people from the system. They will tell us how they deal with this, so that skills provision, they are smart and they respond to all the needs that you expressed above. So in the panel, we have Joel Rothschild. He's the Director and Administration for Research and Development and Training from ORT School Network from Israel. And as it was mentioned by Dana, we have also Paolo Nardi, and he is the coordinator, research coordinator, and also leading this international partnership on skills for social inclusion led by Cometa Formazione. So I open the discussion now, but as it is agreed, the two representatives, they have brought 1 minute film to capture very quickly what they do. Please, I pass over to the technicians for putting up the videos.
Hi, my name is Michael Meirovich. I am the principal of Ort Singalovsky, Tel Aviv, Israel. I am proud to be the principal of this school. I am an electrical engineer, and the idea of me moving to education is to take the abilities and the skills from this point of view to education, to make the kids see the horizon, to make them happy and to make them strive for success in their life. They will learn in different type of environment, in different type of groups. They make them achieve skills, the skills that will help them in their lives. Not necessarily get 100 in math or 100 in physics or 100 in psychology, whatever. The idea is to make them understand how to study and where to study and with whom to study, and to make the idea that everyone can do it with a different in a different environment.
Hello, my name is Nan Lugassi, and I'm studying in Ort Singalovsky School in Tel Aviv. My dream is to be a doctor, and my school supports me through the 555 formula, high level of math, physics, and English.
Hi, my name is Samuel. I'm a student here at Ort Singalovsky Tel Aviv. Here, in this school, we have a huge diversity of people, and that's what's so great about it. Through friendship and camaraderie, it gives us opportunities of strong studies of science and technologies to build up my startup dreams.
Thank you very much. So Paulo and Joel, are you here?
Yep, I'm here. Yes.
Now somebody's on the beach. I hope you are doing some work there, no? And Paulo, so I pass the floor to Joel and then after to Paulo. Thanks, Joel. And
okay, hello everybody from Tel Aviv. What you see is the Mediterranean beach last week. Today is a stormy day in Tel Aviv. We had a strong rain tonight, but you can see the Mediterranean beach, which is beautiful. Okay, spring is coming. Hello everybody, thank you very much, Linda, to give us the opportunity to discuss a very important thing, which is all the aspects of vocational and excellence and innovation center, which comes to the social periphery and inner city. The COVID put something in a very strong contrast, and we know it, that the social periphery and the inner city suffered much more than those who had much more resilience and grit in this time. Israel, as a startup nation, as a startup culture, we had a big challenge here, not to lose hope in these areas of inner cities and the social periphery. So we took, I will say, 5 steps, which I'll describe very, very shortly. One is we didn't give up, especially in the periphery. We continued to make linkage between the startup and the high-tech industry to our school. Secondly, we created virtually a bidirectional relationship between startupists, high-tech engineers, and teachers, and mentors, and students. Thirdly, we continued to operate within the COVID. Our school innovation centers, we didn't give up. We said, let's continue to work with capsules, with small groups, afternoon, virtually, so the students still will have the ability to dream, to think about the future and not to give up within all the hardship that was there and loneliness within the COVID. Fourth is we created young innovators. This is a really big initiative in the inner city and periphery. those students who can really dream and put up some real projects in a PBL approach and to come out with fantastic ideas, mainly which relates to social challenges, is to work with teachers, to change the role of teacher. The teacher must be a mentor, mentally, socially, but also as a hope deliver, as a hope giver to young people. Paulo?
Hello. Hi, Lida. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I have a couple of slides just to share what we are doing in our GIVE project. As you see from the slide, it's based on the experience of some vet centers, companies, universities, where the main idea is that a vet center cannot be inclusive if it doesn't provide an excellent training, but at the same time, excellence is not excellent if exclude anybody. So please, next slide. What we are going to do actually is, first of all, based on our experience, to consolidate this experience into practice, which can be transferable, shareable through Europe, but also beyond. As you have seen in the short movie, we have 5 European countries involved, but also Tunisia and also Belarus. And the main pillar of these experiences were, of course, we mean inclusion not only for people with disability or learning disability, but also with fragility, any kind of disadvantage. This is real inclusion. The main pillar is to have the learner at the center. The learner at the center means that we have to change our approach to have a more holistic TVET provision, and at the same time to involve all the relevant stakeholders to provide a really inclusive and excellent training. So it means to work at least at 3 levels. The first one at educational and didactic level. One size fits all doesn't work anymore. So we need to think a different way, personalization, but also we have listened to the other speakers, not only technical and professional skills, but also social emotional learning, general skills. Actually, we say we have to educate people, not just train future employees. But to do that, to change that at the very concrete level, we need to change the mindset of TVET leaders. So we need to change TVET centers, as also Maria Vittoria and Dana were saying in the previous chapter. We need more flexible, agile organizations, open to hybrid solutions like business education solutions, the ETASI model in the Basque Country, the school enterprise model in our school Cometa, and so on and so forth. Finally, governance. We need to move from a school-centered vision to activate learning ecosystems, which means, of course, companies, but also families and policymakers, research institutions. We need to rethink teacher education. So this is what we are going to work with our Greek partners in the GIVE project in order to identify practices, to create tools which can be discussed and shared with other TVET centers in Europe and beyond, with a strong scientific framework. And of course, the ambition is to create indeed a platform and a community of practice for all those interested in this inclusive excellence approach. Thank you, Rita.
Thanks a lot, Paolo and Joel. I will go with the second question, but meanwhile, I want to remind everybody that while you are speaking, if they have some questions, they can put it in the chat. I know we will follow up with a dedicated working group where we can share more, because also we are looking, as Susanne explained from the very beginning, these are the new themes that the community of ENE is trying to look at, but most importantly, to look at what is being already implemented and done by the members. And then the second one, but this will be with follow-up and more dedicated platforms as the work develops. And then what are the key themes that we can work on later? Now, if you have any question, please put there, if not in the working group. Now, since I think, Suzanne, we have another 3 minutes, no?
To me, it looks like we have 6 minutes.
6 minutes, okay. So since I can't see, unless you, Suzanne, see, but I can't see any question for the panelists.
I would like to add some.
Exactly, I wanted to come back to you now. So reaction among yourselves, because you come from the national system. Paolo comes also from an international ground. So how much these things that we talked about, that we heard before, can be embedded in the delivery?
I would like now to go to some examples that we are doing in Israel. And while Old Network has more than 100 high schools in Israel, which in all we deliver strong and advanced science and technology education, when it comes to the aspects of Excellence Center, we give priority to the social areas, to the social periphery, and to the inner city. And I would like to talk about 4 examples. The first example is in Tiberias, in the north, near the Galilee Sea. It's not a wealthy area. It's an area which needs a lot of support. So we created a center which really gives the kids a place to have much more joy. And the idea is that they can do a lot of making, a lot of makers, social making. So they have an excellent lab, a beautiful lab, which looks like a really high-tech environment. And then they can provide, while they are doing interdisciplinary STEM project, they can create projects while in a very high level of making. They can do this and show their responsibility, their social responsibility, their achievements to the community. In a second town, which is a much more wealthy town, Kiryat Tivon, which is near Haifa in the north, it's a much more posh area, and the kids are looking to be engineers, they're looking to be researchers, startupists, and so on. Here we created an area which the idea is to bring much more relations between the high-tech industry, which it's there a lot around the town, and the community. So students who never ever dreamed about startup, and startup is not just science technology. Startup can be culinary, startup can be green issue, startup can be agriculture. They are linked to local industry, while the people from the industry are coming to the school. They are supporting an excellence innovation center within the school. And they create an excellent relationship, which is not just once a month, a weekly relationship with strong workshops that students, young entrepreneur, engineer from industry and the school are coming and interacting. The third example is in the south, in Ashkelon, which is very close to the Gaza Strip. Here, there is no high-tech or startup economy at all. It's all classic agriculture and classic industry, which relates to food and so on. So we created and we built very strong innovation excellence center, which really mimic, like a WeWork environment, that we bring mentors from quite far away and parents who are working within the startup and the high-tech industry, and to be role models. And the kids need role models. And these role modeling and teachers who are changing the role to become a mentor. So just a small example of few places in Israel. I really hope that soon we will all be able to travel. We will be able to host you here in Israel and to have a rove around to see these centers, also to see the beautiful country, the Holy Land, and enjoy the network of excellence, innovation, and entrepreneur. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoel. Paulo, we have 2 minutes. Do you have any reaction to that, and how these countries' experiences we can bring into a wider platform where we can all have peer learning and exchange and build on it?
Yeah, sure. First of all, a big thank you to Yoel, because I will be very happy to go to Israel and visit ORT again. It was a great experience. I think what I can do in few seconds is just a call for action. I think that COVES and the ETF Network for Excellence, for instance, are a great opportunity for all of us experiencing great practices, great tools in terms of learner at the center, holistic approach, activation of the learning ecosystem. In a nutshell, change the mindset, change the vision of TVET provision. We have a great opportunity now to cooperate, to work together. Maybe we'll not change everything in the world, but first of all, getting in touch and let us know, for instance, your experiences, your challenges, and cooperate together to improve improve mutually our own activities. I think it would be a great service, not only for our learners, for our colleagues, but also for the TVET system in Europe and beyond.
Thank you, Paolo, and you, both of you were perfect in time, and we captured all the key areas, even if superficially, but we will follow up to go deep in the working group, and also with the follow-up work on the inclusiveness, smart inclusiveness, and we will never allow exclusiveness. Thank you very much, and very grateful for giving your time for this panel and sharing your experiences with the others. So we close it here, and I leave it to the technical team to give some announcement how we go to the working groups, because we are told that as panelists, we switch off from the link of taking part as speakers, and we join the participant link. We were provided 2 links.
I can help you out with that, Lida. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks a million to Susanne and to Anastasia, to Maria Vittoria, Lida, and the speakers they have invited to this session, which was excellent. Great content, great moderation, great timekeeping. Thanks a million. So now, like Lida was announcing, now it's time actually to rest and relax, because we have 15 minutes of a coffee break. In the meantime, I kindly ask the speakers which are in the speaking groups to move to the participants group. This is not for everyone, this is just for the speakers. They have clear instructions and they will go to the participants group so that they will access the breakout groups right afterwards. I ask the participants to stay connected and have a nice coffee, have a nice tea, start thinking about what they would like to bring to the conversation in 15 minutes, watch the nice videos which we're going to play, and see you back at 11:30 Central European Time in plenary, and then we'll all go into the breakout rooms. Thanks a million and have a nice coffee.
Welcome to the College of Communication number 54, the most dynamically developing educational institution of Moscow, which trains specialists in the field of communication and one of the largest colleges at the present time. The main goal of the college is to train highly qualified specialists according Welcome to the College of Communication number 54, the most dynamically developing educational institution of Moscow, which trains specialists in the field of communication and one of the largest colleges at the present time. The main goal of the college is to train highly qualified specialists in accordance with the modern requirements of technological development. The college trains specialists in the field of communications and telecommunications, electronics and automation, information technology and programming, information security and network administration, laser and quantum technologies. The college consists of 8 specialized academic centers where educational programs are implemented. The college offers more than 100 advanced training and retraining programs, from high-tech courses in telecommunication system administration and microcontroller programmer to the training of educational psychologists. The college is actively involved in the WorldSkills movement and for the past 3 years has been included in the top 100 best educational institutions according to the WorldSkills Russia. The college has more than a dozen WorldSkills Russia certified sites for passing demonstration exams, 3 specialized competence centers according to WorldSkills standards. Among the students and staff of the college, there are national and world champions of WorldSkills, experts of international and national levels. Among the social partners of the college are such large enterprises as MGTS, Moslift, Moscow Metro, Russian Post, Russian Broadcasting and Notification Networks, InfoWatch, Rostelecom, the World Corporations Unified Communications Enterprise and Samsung, National Instruments and Huawei, where students can practice. The college actively works with the enterprises of the state corporations Rostec and Roscosmos in the field of advanced training of employees in the area of information security, electronics and programming of microcontrollers. The college actively developing international cooperation with the world's largest corporations, being a certified unified training center for the training of digital switching station administrations, and has OpenSCAP business digital stations. Among the international partners of the college are Samsung Russia Service CO, Ltd from South Korea, Unified Communications Enterprise from Germany, and ES-EDU Professional College from Finland. In 2013, the first Samsung Technical Education Center in Russia was opened on the basis of the college within the framework of a public-private partnership and a joint activity agreement. The TOC includes laboratories for the repair and maintenance of digital televisions, mobile phones, air conditioners, household appliances, and smart glass. Specialists of the college and Samsung have developed and implemented distance courses for role training programs. College of Communications number 54 is the place where hundreds of students become successful professionals every year. Anything is possible for us. The impossible just takes longer.
Green. People say that our vocational training is green. It's true. We're green because our objectives include sustainability, nature, and caring for the environment. However, we're not just green. We're also blue because we support marine life and careful use of water. White is the foundation of the gastronomy sector, and upon it we can combine all the colors of the rainbow. We have assimilated all the colors of wood because our work covers construction through to maintenance and development of ecosystems. When it comes to the strength of the sun and energy, we combine red and yellow. People also say that orange is the color of technology. We incorporate innovation and technology in all of our processes. We could even be pink or purple. Our projects could use the entire color palette. At the heart of this colorful vocational training center are its people. Our labor of love is the well-being and future of people built upon sustainability.
What makes a university successful? Is the size, a bigger campus, spacious classrooms. Perhaps it is the variety of programs taught. Maybe for others, but definitely not for us. For numbers are not good enough to denominate the quality. What makes us successful is that our scope is as wide as the globe. Ergo, we pursue the reason and science. The success, for we know, comes after the 1000th attempt. The best is only achieved by experimenting. The success is the endeavor to create the better, to seek the higher summit, ever in the horizon. To embrace the power of diversity and to convey the world's legacy to the future. This is why we are undeterred when we face a challenge. For success is to know each challenge makes you stronger. To remain ever hopeful, even at the darkest moment. This is how you raise the prosperity who will reshape the country and rewrite the history. This is how you pioneer the reform in education. And this is what you will remember, the lovely memoirs of a fulfilled life when you look back and below from the top. Ergo, we are treading the path to success with faith in our youth, in our hearts, to a bright future, unwearied and unwavering. For the numbers will change, but the quality will remain. Cappadocia University.
Welcome to the College of Communication number 54, the most dynamically developing educational institution of Moscow, which trains specialists in the field of communication and one of the largest colleges at the present time. The main goal of the college is to train highly qualified specialists in accordance with the modern requirements of technological development. The college trains specialists in the field of communications and telecommunications, electronics and automation, information technology and programming, information security and network administration, laser and quantum technologies. The college consists of 8 specialized academic centers where educational programs are implemented. The college offers more than 100 advanced training and retraining programs, from high-tech courses in telecommunication system administration and microcontroller programmer to the training of educational psychologists. The college is actively involved in the World Skills movement and for the past 3 years has been included in the top 100 best educational institutions according to the World Skills Russia. The college has more than a dozen World Skills Russia certified sites for passing demonstration exams, 3 specialized competence centers according to World Skills standards. Among the students and staff of the college, there are national and world champions of World Skills, experts of international and national levels. Among the social partners of the college are such large enterprises as
welcome back to the second day of the conference of the European Trainees Foundation ENE network, the network for the centers of vocational excellence. I hope you had a lovely coffee break or tea time, or just a nice walk to refresh your mind and body. And in case you have had the time to look at the videos we've shared, we really hope you have enjoyed them. So now it's time for a high interaction, and I officially launch the fact that we are about to have breakout groups discussions. How this is going to work? Basically, you will be allocated to different discussion groups into different languages, English, French, and Russian, on different topics, either social inclusion or entrepreneurship or going green. So just stay there in front of your computer. This will happen for you, and we'll get back to this conversation as a plenary in 20 minutes from now, 22 to be precise. And I really wish you a very fruitful discussion. Colleagues from the European Training Foundation and also some of the speakers will be there with you. So I really encourage this conversation, which will feed the future development of the ENE network as a whole community. So please, let's begin the breakout groups discussions. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the conversations in these breakout groups. I hope it was a nice opportunity for you to interact among each other, also in different languages, which is something we really care about. Bear in mind that the discussion is just beginning now, and it will continue even in the next months, and your contribution will always be very welcome in shaping the future of the ENE network. But now let's move to the next item on our agenda, and I officially launch session 6, which is the first part about connecting the dots, and it focuses on the role of international networks and platforms. And I'd like to give the floor to the session moderator, my colleague, Yorios Tizimos, actually also the former team leader of the ENE network. So very, very warm welcome to Yorgos, and over to you.
Thank you, Daria. Hello to everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to chair this session. I think we have great panelists who are going to share our experience the idea is not simply to see what is a network, a platform of centers of excellence or a partnership, but what does it mean in practice? How does it work? What are the success factors? How there are benefits for both sides? That's what a partnership means, that everybody wins. So we have today 5 very different speakers. Each one of them, they come from a completely different background, let's say, but that's the beauty of it, because they will give us different ideas of how things can work in different contexts. And that is the aim. So I will introduce them very quickly with their first names. I think that reflects well the good cooperation we have. So Julian will go first in a minute, and he's the CEO of the One Borough Worldwide Group, and at the same time, he's the president-elect of IVETA, which is a network of vocational education training. He will talk to us about how partnerships are managed within both institutions that he's connected to, what makes them so successful, what do they bring to the institutions, and so on. The second speaker is Kudevin Grivik. You see him already on the screen. He comes from Catapult, Netherlands. This is a very interesting network based on public-private partnerships, and he will take his time to explain us what is Catapult, and then what does it mean, these partnerships. They're not only national, they're also international. Then we will go to Jürgen. Jürgen, he comes from Austria. He works for the Ministry of Education, Science and Research. But today he will talk about the Danube. He is the coordinator of the Danube Strategy Priority Area 9, which is linked to skills. And he will talk about his experience, how we can actually shape partnerships within that region. Then we have Anna. Anna, she comes from Humana, the Federation of Humana, People to People. This is a network of 30 NGOs, and she will talk about the experience of Humana schools in sub-Saharan Africa. So completely different context there. And then our last speaker, Alexis, he's a senior specialist on skills development. He works for the Lux Development Agency, and he will talk about the autonomy of institutions based on public-private partnerships. What does it mean for the centers of excellence? So this as an introduction from my side. The first question for each one of the speakers is different. They have 4 minutes exactly, whereas for the second question, they will have 2 minutes. They have to be sharp, otherwise they will bear the consequences. So with the first speaker, Julian, will you introduce a bit the 2 institutions you're associated to, and then tell us a bit about how you build partnerships, what do they mean? The time starts now for you. Thank you.
Julian is not present at the moment in the meeting. He has some connection problem.
Okay. Let's go straight to the next speaker. This is you, Kudevin. Are you ready? So yes. you will introduce a bit about Catapult, of course, and then, well, you know your job.
Yes. Thank you so much. And well, thank you for having me here on this panel. It's an honor to, share some of the experience from the Netherlands with the ENE network. My name is Boudewijn Grievink, and I work for Catapult. And Catapult is a network of over 380 public-private partnerships in education in the Netherlands. So over the last 10 years, we've built this network with all kinds of initiatives that all have in common that they are public-private partnerships. And what I would like to do in this contribution is to share some of the best practices that we've learned from these projects. So this is not something theoretical that we've come up with, but actual examples based on the practice in the Netherlands. And I think one of the main success factors of public-private partnerships is that they really bring together all stakeholders in a skills ecosystem. So this is basically in a region where schools, companies, and governments are all confronted with the same main challenges. So like an aging workforce, having to deal with sustainability, the energy transition, etc., etc. And I think the concept of working together in a public-private partnership really allows to take the best of everyone's worlds to find solutions for this. So to give an example, in Amsterdam, there was a school working on installation services, and they said, well, it's just really hard to get students into our sector. It's really hard to find enough people. Companies were complaining because, well, they didn't have enough people either. And they basically decided, okay, let's try to tackle this issue ourselves. And they decided to, well, show to the students, like, okay, what is it like to work in installation services? And students indicated, well, we think it's a dirty job, it's an awful job. And then together with the companies in Amsterdam, they showed, okay, well, working in installation services is not only, well, doing a dirty job, but it's also working in theaters and making sure that people have like a really nice evening. And by doing this campaign on promoting the sector, together with the schools and the companies, like the intake of students went up with 20% in the first year and another 20% the year after, which, well, was a cause for companies saying, well, hey, this collaboration is successful, so we want to do more. And I think this illustrates one of the success factors of, well, really working together, and as a school also working from outside in. So you take the common challenge, you listen to what the skills ecosystem needs, and based on that you start collaborating, and you start small, but then you basically build up the activities. And I think that's a nice thing about the Centers of Vocational Excellence that the European Commission has been launching. Like this is really an instrument, so to say, for a lot of the Dutch public-private partnerships to scale up and also to look across the borders. So, for instance, like Cometa is doing a great job with the GIVE project, and I already have schools in the Netherlands saying, well, hey, we want to do this as well. So I think the Centers of Vocational Excellence and also the ENE network are a great opportunity to, well, share these experiences of, well, how to go about public-private partnerships and vocational excellence. And yeah, to me, it is, well, quite obvious that we all should work together in this way and learn from each other, since there's, well, so many good examples across Europe and across the world. And I'm really glad that the European Commission is, well, supporting these initiatives through Erasmus. Maybe
Thank you.
Leave it at that for this moment.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot. By the way, I've noticed that your name sounds so different when you say it than when I say it. I guess you're the right one, huh?
It's a very Dutch name. It's a really hard one.
Thank you. I think Julian is with us now. So Julian, can you put on your camera and you will take the floor. You will tell us about your own experience from the One Borough Worldwide group, and also the IVETA that you are the president-elect. The floor is yours.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Great, excellent. So in English, we have a phrase that no man is an island, and this has never been more true. I'm representing two organizations today. The first is the Warnborough Worldwide Education Group, which brings together a group of over 40 learning centers in different countries under one umbrella, and we offer vocational qualifications from everything from the culinary arts to fashion design. These international collaborations form a network of opportunities for our students, teachers, and industries. And basically, we are bigger and stronger together than alone. Our centers in developing countries benefit from international expertise and qualifications, quality assurance, and technology transfer. And we work also to get our students into industries for real working experience as part of their actual learning. As a network, we benefit from emerging markets and abilities, cultural awareness, and knowledge exchange. We have access to students that we would never be able to afford to, who would never be able to afford to study with us here in Europe. And together we have created a greater range of courses and disciplines to offer. The second organization I represent is IVETA, which is the International Vocational Education Training and Training Association. This too is a network of organizations and individuals around the world with a specific focus on TVET. The key aim of IVETA is to develop TVET through research, accessibility, and opportunity around the world. And by doing so, we engage with stakeholders through regular conferences, newsletters, webinars, industry meetings, and our journal. So it's important for both the two organizations I represent to involve all our stakeholders. At Warnbro, we work with industry to ensure that what we are teaching is relevant and necessary to the real world skills. We have industry panels to advise on course development and to also ensure that our students are work ready and they have work internships before they even complete their studies. And also the companies have first choice in selecting their future employees from this. IVETA works with other industry bodies, including the ETF, to find ways to develop TVET across its 9 geographic areas. We also have a TVET development fund to help TVET good practice and ideas in developing nations. So both organizations embody the same spirit that is demonstrated by ETF's Network of Excellence, that yes, we can be islands, but greater success and strength will be achieved when we come together and bridge our differences.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you. You said it right. We are partners. We have a partnership between IVETA and ETF. We will have the opportunity, of course, to reflect a bit more on that in the second question, where I will ask you specifically about ENE and how do you see our partnership. Jürgen, the floor is yours now. Jürgen, as I said, he represents here the Danube strategy, priority area 9. Member states and EU neighboring countries are involved in this strategy, and he will talk to us about partnerships, networks at regional level. That's a special element in his presentation. Jürgen, the floor is yours. You have 4 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Georgios. Thanks to you. And also, I would like to congratulate actually on the achievements so far of the ENE network. I think this is really remarkable what has been achieved already. And I'm very happy to be here. I, of course, would prefer to be with you in Torino, but for the time being, it's also fine like this. So thanks for the possibility to talk a little bit about how the USDR, the Danube strategy, helps to shape partnership networks and exchange, and actually what is also the potential for cooperation regarding vocational excellence. The Danube strategy, maybe just to say briefly, is one of 4 so-called EU macro-regional strategies, and it's a policy framework which exists now since 10 years, since 2011, to jointly address challenges in a certain geographical area, the macro region, in this case, the Danube region. And work is going on really a variety of topics, from environmental issues to economic challenges to topics of social relevance. And it's 14 countries who are involved in the cooperation, 9 EU member states. And as you said, also non-EU countries, 5 non-EU countries, which are also ETF partner countries. So that is Bosnia and Herzegovina, Moldova, Montenegro, Serbia, and the Ukraine. I'm one of the coordinators of the priority area 9 called People and Skills, which focuses on education and training policies, labor market policies, and also on social issues, and in particular marginalized groups and communities. And what we are doing actually, I always say that there are 3 C's, which is coordination, cooperation, and communication. So in terms of coordination, we are facilitating and supporting a network of stakeholders that brings actually together many partners from national education and employment ministries, educational vet institutions, youth organizations, partners like the ETF, project partners, etc., etc. In terms of cooperation, we are trying to deepen the know-how transfer and support policy on the one hand, policy development, and also cooperation among institutions, for instance, through conferences, workshops, and setting up collaborative processes that also lead to concrete outputs in terms of also projects. Of course, this work is currently going on also mostly online, like also you are doing now. And the last C, the communication, is actually that we are very active in raising awareness on the concrete topics of interest and relevant developments in the region, and also to provide information about financing possibilities to our stakeholders and then partners in the USDR countries. Maybe there is even a fourth C, which is complementarity, because what we are doing is, of course, complementary to what is happening on the EU level, but also in activities of like ETF, and also EDICE, which is a network of education ministries in the Western Balkan region. So what we're doing is, I would say, it's like an enabling strategy, and we're kind of a laboratory which provides a possibility to create room for exchange, to try out new approaches, to make better use of EU funds, and one very essential element in our priority is actually this cooperation on equal footing between member states and non-member states, in both in terms of activities, but also in terms of the governance of the work, as in particular our priority area is jointly coordinated by Austria, the Ukraine, and Moldova. And when we look at the thematic issues, we have three basically focuses currently on we're trying to foster equal opportunities in education and ensure quality learning outcomes for all. We have a focus on digital and green skills, and the action plan, which is the basic of our work, also gives a strong focus on strengthening labor market relevance of skills, and in this context, in particular, vocational education and training. And now also in this regard, I think there comes the link to why we are all here today, is that also in the context of the Danube strategy, the action plan asks actually the countries participating in the strategy to engage and promote the establishment of platforms of centers of vocational excellence, which are also in the very context of the macro region are seen as drivers of quality vocational skills in the context of national, regional, and sectorial challenges. I don't know. I think.
Thank you, Jürgen. You will have a bit more time to 2 more minutes later on to elaborate on these last points, and the work that we plan to do together. Perfect. Thanks a lot. I like the 4C principle. I will move straight to the next panelist, who is Anna. Anna, as I said, is the coordinator of EU relations at the Humana network. She will talk about the experience with schools, centers of excellence in Africa, and how does that cooperation works. And of course, then when she will get the floor again up for the second round, she will talk to us a bit about the cooperation with ETF. Anna has a slide as well. So Anna, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Take the floor. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the ETF for giving me the opportunity to be here today. As you just said, I represent Humana, which is a network of 30 NGOs located all over the world. And our core mission is to empower people through education and capacity building. In this regard, we run 16 private Tibet schools in collaboration with relevant ministries in 8 sub-Saharan countries, as you can see here in the map. And 7 of them have already joined the ENE network. You can see them with the little red dots on the map, but hopefully the rest of the schools will also follow. So in our school, we offer both formal and informal courses in a wide range of trades, from climate smart agriculture to renewable energy, entrepreneurship, electricity, or civil construction, just to name a few. And although we do share the methodology and the same approach, the academic offer is always adapted to the local needs, but it always includes a substantial part, practical part, in collaboration with local private sector. One thing in common to all our schools is that they all work in remote rural areas with extremely vulnerable communities. which has an impact not only in the financial system of our schools, but also implies that the technical skills will very often have to be complemented with basic education or even basic life skills. So in our mission to provide opportunities and quality education to those who are furthest behind, those who are most disadvantaged, we place our vet schools at the center of wider community development and link them to other development projects in the areas of health, water and sanitation, rural development, and social inclusion. Therefore, there is strong social component to what we do. And it's in our continuous effort to bring together and to respond to both community needs and market demands that in our case are in always aligned, that we have decided to join the ENE network. All our schools have long-standing partnerships with public and private local stakeholders and also with international entities like the European Union, GIZ, Enable, or even with the Vet Toolbox team. But we wanted to add another dimension to our partnership, a dimension that we believe will help us deliver better services, or as we say, to reach the next level in excellence. So we trust that the opportunity to work and collaborate with peers from other regions will allow us to combine the already tried and tested local approaches with international best practices, innovative solutions, and modern standards. And at the same time, our working system as a network, working in different countries with different partners, will allow us to act as beacons of excellence.
Anna, thank you very much. I will interrupt you here just to go to the next speaker. We are under pressure with time. So our next speaker is Alexis. Anna, you will have the chance to come with a very short intervention at the very end. Alexis, he's a senior specialist on skills development. He's concentrated on autonomy, let's say, in this discussion, how autonomy of centers of excellence contributes to, help to create partnerships, networks. So Alexis, the floor is yours. You have 4 minutes.
And I know the time is limited, unfortunately. So I'm back. I'm happy to be back in Turin, where I worked at the International Training Center of the ILO as a skills development officer, focusing a lot, not that much on what to do, but how to do it. So this is about public-private partnerships. So on this time, I'm a representative from LuxDev on vocational training. And on the same moment, the DG INTPA, who used to be the DG DEFCO, had organized about 5-6 projects on TVET. One of them is Vet Toolbox, Vet Toolbox 1, and I will have Vet Toolbox 2, which is a collaboration between 5 bilateral donors like British Council, GIZ, Enable, LuxDev from Luxembourg, and AFD from France, to work out on different topics. And amongst others, it's there the public-private partnership. Because we do believe, as we just discussed in a subgroup, that this is extremely important to move ahead. We also work with a lot of multilateral donors, and I would like to mention them, like Paul de Dakar from UNESCO, with UNIDO, who's also very keen and very strong on the how, on the public-private partnerships. So when I say this on public-private partnerships, and I made a note and I sent it around, it's that, of course, everybody wants to work with the private sector, and we see a lot of initiatives that we call, let's say, from a legal point of view, who is the final responsible, which is normally the public training centers, we call it educational PPPs, meaning a public training center is working together with the private sector on the trainers, on modular training, modular trainings aspects, on handbooks, equipment, but still the final responsible is the government, is the public unity. In Kosovo, for instance, we work with LuxDev on very important centers of competence, and we have enterprises like Pearson, we have Essilor, all kind of companies, local and international companies, where the donor and our TA, and through the person of Daniel Pasalagua, is doing an excellent job of bringing them all together. So this is one step. But actually, you can go further, and that's maybe, I'm very happy, and that's maybe I would like to stress about this opportunity as public-private partnership, where you have operational PPPs. And the difference is there, it's not the government who's responsible, it's the private company. And there are kind of 6 legal contracts possible between the government and the enterprise to run this kind of training centers. And I'm very happy to see that amongst us, we have Ms. Awa Sanya from Senegal. And this is really an example, an excellent example of how things can work that way, where you have an enterprise and responding to the needs of a specific sector. In this case, we work with the CMFPL, which is the trades in the harbor of Dakar on logistics and harbor activities, more the blue collar activities. And really, what does it all count? It's about the job insertion. And we see more than 90% of our youngsters getting into jobs. So for us, as donors, it's obvious that we would like to have a shift of mentality to have autonomy. As you said, Giorgio, autonomy is very important for public training centers. And then you have these operational PPPs, which is not privatized. It's still the mix between the two. And this is working well. In Senegal, we have different kind of two of those PPPs, operational PPPs. We call it in French, contrat d'affermage. It's about leasing, concession, something in between. And really, they give good results. And more, they on their turn, they can then train other training centers to become more responding to the needs of the enterprises. So if you want to change the what in a training center, the how, I think, is the first step. So again, I'm very happy and I'm saluting Awa Sanya, who is there with us, with whom we will be working in the VET Toolbox too, which is again, an initiative with different kind of donors. And what I wanted to say too, you would be surprised to see in how many countries the PPPs, public-private partnerships, are coming and growing. Take, for instance, the case of Chile. We have the education system, which is classic, the private schooling and the public schooling. And yeah, you know the story, the public schooling is not that good and the private schooling is supposedly very good. Well, then they start now to do the bridging, to have this kind of intermediate education schools. I mean, this is the formal education where the PPPs come in. Another example, most of
Alexis,
yes,
I think we're running out of time.
And I finished there.
Yeah.
Lycée Français, even there, you will find new contracts coming in of operational PPPs, private companies running a part of the Lycée Français in the future. So it's a very good situation. Voila, I wanted to be short, and I'm short. Thank you,
Alexis. I left you a bit. Actually, you've done your 2 minutes as well. So I will go the other way around now. We have 7 minutes and a bit. So you have the other 4 speakers. You have more or less less than 2 minutes. Anna, the floor is yours. I'll start the other way around now. So from the bottom, Anna, you all respond to the same question here. How do you see ENE in relation to your work? So 1.5 minutes.
Wow, that's short. Well, so as I said before, we joined ENE because we want to learn and collaborate with you to bring excellence to our context. And as you can imagine, our schools work in very challenging context, and young people who make up even to 80% of the total population. In the case of Malawi, suffer significant unemployment rates even when they have a qualification. So we are new, we haven't had the time to meet and engage with other ENE members so far, but there are 4 key areas where such collaboration can be especially effective for us. The first one is better engagement with the private sector and analysis of labor market demands. The second one is about updating our training offer and materials. Third one is about creating real job opportunities for VET students, and here I'm referring about entrepreneurship and business incubators. And the fourth one is about closing the digital divide in education.
Let's put a full stop there, and we move to Jürgen. Jürgen, how do you see the cooperation at regional level done with ENE?
Well, thanks, Jorgos. Well, as I said, ENE is quite a remarkable model in facilitating dialogue and cooperation among govs. So we share actually many objectives also when it comes to the supporting dialogue between member states, non-member states, but also on the level of thematic priorities, because we did a consultation among our USDR countries, and there is a high willingness and interest in establishing cooperation in this regard. And interest was raised in particular on 2 topics which are green skills, and on the other hand, the social dimension of excellence. And I think so there is probably a very high level of possible synergies and cooperation with ENE and ETF is very of high interest to us, and very welcome in our endeavor to establish such platforms. And actually, I'm happy to say that we already since quite some time now in the process of trying to prepare this. And I think our work in the Danube strategy can definitely benefit both from ETF's expertise and also resources in terms of setting up here a specific macro-regional network working on one of these two topics. So we could make best use of the ongoing work, events, activities you are implementing. So this, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jürgen. And good evening. How do you see, I mean, you're members of our network as well. So how do you see that developing?
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important that there are networks like ENE and also the Catapult network that you can connect actually the schools with each other when it comes to vocational excellence and public-private partnerships. I think there's a lot of questions on how to do it exactly and how to, well, share the best practices, but also the lessons learned. And yeah, I think the ENE initiative is a great tool to actually connect those schools and project leaders with each other so they can exchange this knowledge. And as we say at Catapult, like one of the most important reasons why we exist as a network is to prevent reinvent the wheel over and over again. And I think, that potential is here as well with the ENE network in collaboration with all the schools across the different regions.
Thank you. And Julian, you are the last speaker. You have 1.5 minutes. The rest of the 1.5 minutes is mine. So please, you have the floor now.
All right, thank you. As I said before, islands do much better when they're connected by bridges. And we all know that TVET usually struggles against higher education in terms of reputation, expectations, etc., and funding. But we are no less important. By coming together, we can form a strong pressure group with a loud and clear voice, and we can change policy, revolutionize industry, and provide a viable alternative for the future generations who do not fit into traditional academic routes. I can already see the development of toolkits and frameworks and models as a result of the ENE cooperation, which is another indicator of why the ENE is so important. For example, if we look at the Centers of Vocational Excellence framework, one of the big sections is cooperation and partnerships, encouraging reciprocal relationships, PPPs, as Alexis said earlier, innovation hubs, and mobility. And that is basically the ENE already. So networks like the ENE can bridge all stakeholder groups, governments, COVES, HE institutions, industries, NGOs, learners, trainers, to create a sustainable TVET ecosystem.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you to all 5 panelists. Let me name them again. Julian from Iveta, Gudevin from Catapult, Jürgen from the Danube Priority Area 9, Anna from Humana, and Alexis from the Lux Development Agency. Thank you, because the idea was to connect dots, and in a way, in your presentations, you all immediately you could see where one could complement the other. And I think that was the 4th C from the principle that Jürgen mentioned earlier. So thank you for doing that. I mean, time was very short. You all had more things to say, and you have all kindly added comments to the chat. I'm asking the contractor please to share those comments and those that material you have shared with the chat of the plenary, so everybody can see that. I'm sure you will receive comments and questions and ideas for collaboration from our colleagues. So that was the aim, to see how you work and then how we connect the dots. From our side, ENE for sure will try to play that role that you have all described. Either this is in Africa with Humana, either this is through using the VET toolbox that Alexis spoke about, but also the experience that exists through public-private partnerships, or through the network of Catapult, which Gudevin spoke about. That is an exciting sort of tool that brings together public-private partnerships through which centers of excellence work, either through the regional platform that we're working with. Jürgen spoke about that. There is an interest for two thematic areas there, social inclusion and green skills, to work with the Danube countries and region. So it's a sub-network of ENE, and of course, opportunities to work and, let's say, revitalize our partnership that we have with IVETA there. They're working with the bed providers. Bed providers are, of course, at the heart of centers of excellence, of the clusters, and we can do a lot there. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Daria, the floor is back to you.
Thank you very much, Yorgos, and to all the speakers. It was a super interesting conversation. I am aware that time was short, but if we see it from another perspective, less time for each of us means more time for everyone, which is great when we're part of a network. And now I'd like to officially launch session 7, which again is about connecting the dots, but in this case, it's about future developments through networking, knowledge creation and sharing with the countries, the partner countries of the European Training Foundation, which have members of the ENE network. And for this, I'd like to immediately give the floor to the session moderator and my colleague from the European Training Foundation, Abdelaziz Jawani. Over to you, Aziz.
Thanks, Daria. Hello, everyone. My name is Aziz Jawani. I am an expert in human capital development in ETF, and I am pleased to facilitate this session. So I would like, first of all, to welcome our honorable guests and thank them for accepting our invitation to participate to this panel, which has the objective to connect the dots based on the rich exchange and information we get these 2 days. We will discuss concrete ways to make the centers of vocational excellence more impactful on national policy development and reforms. And this is the first objective of this session. We would like also to get your opinion, and not only the panelists, but also the audience, on the best ways ETF can serve you in the future. Now that we have a better idea about the ENE network and its multiple purposes, let's say. So, 2 objectives for this session: how the centers of vocational excellence could impact the national reform, and the second one is how we can work together in the future. So let's first introduce our panelists that will speak French, Russian, and Serbian. So please prepare your interpretation channel. So we have from Serbia, Ms. Gabriela Grujic, Assistant Minister in the Ministry of Education, Science and Technological Development. Welcome, Gabriela. From Tunisia, we have
Thanks a lot and greetings from Serbia.
Chargée de mission in the Ministry of Vet and Employment. Marhaba Aisha. From Turkey, we have Ms. Zeynep Dereli, CEO and Director of Think Technology and Humanity Colleges. Welcome, Zeynep. From Kazakhstan, we have Mr. Kasim Khan Sengazeyev, Director of Asna Polytechnic College. Welcome, Kasim. Last but not least, from Ukraine, we have Ms. Mykola Nesen, Director of Higher Vocational Schools, Kremchuk, sorry for the pronunciation, in Poltava region. Welcome, Mykola. So,
excuse me if I interrupt, just for you to know that out of a technical issue, Ms. Aisha Zemni is not connected in this very moment, so we're trying to catch up with her.
Okay. Sorry, so, okay. So, the rules are very simple. So you will have 3 minutes to answer the questions. And at the end of these 3 minutes, Daria will ring the bell and I will give the floor to the following speaker. So we are already running out of time, I can see, so thanks to respect your time slots. So the first question, we decided to seize the opportunity of the presence of our high-level policymakers representatives, Ms. Gabriela Grujic, and I hope also Ms. Aisha Zemni can join us to discuss the possible impact on policies at national level. So my first question will be made only to them. So the first question for both Gabriela and Aisha is the following. So I would qualify in a challenging statement. Most of the Center of Excellence in ETF partner countries as isolated island of excellence that keep functioning as pilots and vitrines without mainstreaming and generalizing at national level. And this could be due to diverse reasons, ranging from lack of human and budget resources to limited involvement of or capacity of private sectors, or just because of legislative issues. So, in your opinion, and based on your experience, how the Centers of Vocational Excellence could influence VET national policy reforms within lifelong learning perspective in your country. Gabriela, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Since I have very little time allotted to me, and there are so many results I'd like to share with you, I would like first to greet you. I'm glad that we are talking about the centers of excellence that can speed up the technological development. So the Republic of Serbia adopted a development strategy for these centers, and in the forthcoming future, we will support the development of 12 such centers that will be part of educational institutions, actually. We expect from these centers to provide state-of-the-art equipment, which is in keeping with the state-of-the-art equipment around companies, whereby we'll promote lifelong learning. How and in which way will we do that? In order for the Center of Excellence to have a leading role in education, we need some kind of educational platform for that. I created such a platform with my team in the Republic of Serbia, which is the dual model of education. Now, I'll shortly explain how I see the role of these centers for the networking and for the promotion of knowledge. When we talk about the dual education, that means that students and pupils of Serbia can actually learn at two places. But Serbia is a country that is relying on SMEs. So Serbia cannot provide the best quality of knowledge to its students. And that's why there is a complement or addendum to this knowledge by networking. So it will be made possible through these centers of excellence. In these centers of excellence, there is something that I need to say about. In addition to the state-of-the-art equipment that these centers will be provided with, and excellent staff who will be working with the young people, there will be also additional trainings that are on top of the formal education. We will make it possible to use all the resources of the centers of excellence so that young people can complement their knowledge, their regular knowledge. There is another leadership role of these centers of excellence. Namely, they are in Serbia distributed around all regions of Serbia, which will make it possible for students to learn something at certain schools, but rather it will be possible for many young people to be covered by these centers, so that both those who have completed their ordinary education and those who have not have access to these centers. We will make networks of these centers, and they will be focused on the industrial development in their respective regions. And after these centers are networked in Serbia, they will be networked with other centers abroad. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. your intervention was very clear. Thank you very much. So in terms of policy impact and distribution of the Center of Excellence in Serbia through regions, etc. Now, I don't know if Aisha is in or not yet. Otherwise, not yet.
Excuse me, Aziz, may I step in? Because it seems that our guests, Aisha and Mikola, are in the participants group of Zoom. So please, Aisha and Mikola, click on the Zoom link for speakers so that you can interact and join this conversation. Just so you to know, Aziz, we are solving this.
Okay, so in this case, I would propose to move to the second question, because the first question was only to Gabriela and Aisha, which is not yet with us, and we can come back afterward. The second question is for the rest of the panelists, and I would start by, in this case, by Zeynep Dirili from Turkey. So Zeynep, ETF would like to know more about the specific needs of our partner countries to better adapt its activities to these needs. So the question, what would be the most relevant and efficient way to continue collaboration with ETF through the Network of Excellence ENE? By ways, I mean both thematic dimensions such as work-based learning, digitalization, autonomy, PPP, green skills, adult learning, etc., as well as the tools used for this cooperation, such as peer learning, partnership with other center of excellence, methodologies, manuals, guides, etc. So, Zeynep, the floor is yours.
First of all, thank you very much for having me speak at this amazing panel, and for us as TINC to be able to represent Turkey on the Network for Excellence platform. Well, as we know, excellence is about many things, but as the network has its core, internationalization is one of the main pillars of excellence, and current research indicates the advantages of collaborative knowledge creation, and that way of culture, and by way of which culture of learning. And moreover, substantive and widespread research has also shown active and collaborative teaching methods increase student learning and vocational skills. We are at TINC, Technology and Humanity Colleges in Turkey, have developed our own diploma program, which focuses on ICT skills, but with an entrepreneurial mindedness. And we believe an ICT-based collaborative training that incorporates online collaborative learning solutions for vet education will be transformative. And our proposed solution to such a field of vet education is to develop a modern approach to professional education, especially related to technical knowledge. And changes in our environment related to the digital revolution, the change of production methods, and the availability of better quality open educational resources force a change of approach to the education of technical subjects. And new skills and competencies are needed in the current labor market. How are we going to share those skills across the borders? This is what we really need to sit down and think about. And we believe the concept of collaborative learning should be the instructional use of small groups so that students work together to maximize their own and each other's learning. And at TINC, we have an online learning platform that we are more than happy to share with everybody, free of charge. This is something that I wanted to share with you today. And we have a platform, a learning management platform, and educational content that can be used by the other ENEs across the ETF network. And our dedicated ICT solution integrated with the e-learning platform supports collaborative learning, positive interdependence, individual accountability, face-to-face and online promotional interaction. These are all the things that are really important for collaborative skills and group processing. And we believe there are many advantages of collaborative learning, which can be categorized as to be of social, academic, or psychological advantage. And these are, they enhance problem-solving skills, inspire critical thinking, improve social interactions, and support diversity. They aid the development of self-management skills, development of oral communication skills, and they foster the development of interpersonal relationships. Because as the ETF shows, building a network and sustaining a network, a quality network, where there is positive interaction on both sides, can very much increase interaction and learning. So these are all the tools that we believe in, and I would like to thank you for the time that you've given me.
Thank you very much, Zainab. Thank you very much. So je vois que Aïcha est de retour. Aïcha, vous êtes là?
I can see that Aisha is now connected. Aisha, can you hear me? Yes, I'm here indeed. Can you hear me? Hello?
I cannot hear because maybe because of my interpretation. I will. Aïcha, do you hear? Tu m'entends maintenant?
Donc Aisha, can you hear me?
Bonjour.
Well, I can speak either. Hello, Aisha.
Bonjour. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, très bien. Maintenant, c'est bon.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, I hear you really well. Yes, I just needed to make a technical adjustment. Well, I put the question already to Gabriela from the ministry in Serbia. And so here's the question for you. I consider the centers of excellence as too isolated. In my humble opinion, in the partner countries, it is difficult to generalize these coves. Sometimes they are just flagships, but they don't percolate. There is no trickle-down effect. So my question is, how can we turn the coves into something else than just a pilot project, and how can they have a real effect in the countries where they have been implemented? Well, thank you very much, Abdelaziz, and thank you very much for ETF to give me this opportunity to speak today. Now, in Tunisia, we launched a reform in 2016 of vocational training. We have now an updated framework for the promotion of vocational training. This new framework means that they are better adapted, vocational training centers are better adapted to the labor market and to the region where they operate. We want to work mainly on the development of a network of entrepreneurial partners. The idea is to bring together players from the private and the public sector and to launch PPPs. We want to foster an ecosystem fostering skills. We also want to work together with researchers and develop partners with important socioeconomic players. Now, all of this will be done in order to develop skills and to implement excellence. Innovation is at the heart of what we want to do, and this is going to bring about a change of how vocational training is perceived. Now, this year, we're going to take stock of what this network has achieved. We are going to launch a survey with the centers who are pilots in this scheme. And we want also to launch a label of the enterprising centers, which is putting stress on the learning of entrepreneurial skills, which are proving leadership. What the idea behind this is to have a center that is closer to the working of a company, something that is modeled on the working of a company and moving away from traditional models of training, of vocational training. Now, those pilots are going to help with the preparation for the World Week of Vocational Training in November. What we would like to launch here is to set up a jury, and with this core team, we are going to be able to face challenges and to motivate, to inspire the other centers, encouraging to take part into this competition. What we want to highlight is the personal and organizational dimension of the vets. Now, today was a great opportunity to find out about other vets, and we are going to look closely at them because we think that there is a lot to learn out there. It is not always easy to implement those models in my country. Sometimes students themselves are reluctant to see change, but we are going to support a change in order to foster this network of enterprising centers, and we also hope to be able to count on a network of economic partners and of general skills development within the country. Now, I hope that I was able to express accurately the main aspects of this general vision that we have in Tunisia at the moment. And I would be very happy to share with you the outcomes of this labor project that will come to a close in November 2021. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Aisha. So I would invite the audience to put their question on the chat to the panelists, but also to ETF colleagues, and we will try to answer at the end of this session. So let's come back to for the second question to Kasim Khan from Kazakhstan. Kasim, floor is yours.
Уважаемые коллеги,
Dear colleagues, I thank you. I thank you for this discussion. It's a discussion of global education, questions of education, what's happening in the sphere of the VET in Kazakhstan. VET has been developing very actively over the recent years. Talking about COVID, we are now setting up competence centers across the Republic in accordance with our president's instructions. Our vast program has been developed for our colleges, for the colleges of the Republic. It's called Zaslaman. To translate it into English, it will be young experts, young specialists, and these centers will be equipped with the sort of latest technology, and it will use the sort of the best practices. 50% of this work has already been done, and the 20 higher those centers will include representatives of 140 vet schools and 20 higher education colleges. We have been sort of a bit lagging behind until 2 years ago in that direction. But over the last 2 years, the development of that has been boosted. Major large companies such as Bosch, for example, we have 2 resource centers where we work together with large national and international companies, and our students get work experience with those companies. For the last year, we've been working at the IT center, and we are now setting up the so-called Tonus 7 Center, which brings together experts from across the Republic to develop new programs, the best programs for high technologies. And I also will be happy if you're interested to talk about autonomy and about the freedom of choice, inclusiveness, because we are now offering our students to a chance to choose where they want to study. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Спасибо.
Mikola, are you in?
Здравствуйте, уважаемые коллеги.
Okay, perfect. So please, the floor is yours for the second question. Go ahead.
Я очень благодарен за предоставленную.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm very pleased that I have this chance to be part of this discussion. Talking about the tools that we need to use in our cooperation. In my view, and in view of my colleagues, what we need is the exchange of best practices and cooperation with other centers. We remember in the past we had this type of cooperation in 1990s when we worked together with the Federal Ministry of Germany. Back then we had the chance to study how excellence centers work in Germany, how they are equipped, what do they do. So what have we been doing in the Ukraine? We have adopted a strategy to promote vocational training in the country. At the moment, we are working on the new law. As for my educational institution, where I work, our main faculties are IT, construction, welding. As my colleague from Kazakhstan has already mentioned, so we work with the big companies, with big manufacturers, and we train young experts for them, young specialists. In Ukraine, learners can use funds offered by the state and by regional funds, and students can apply to regional centers of vocational training. So these regional vocational centers offer upskilling, reskilling to everyone, to young learners, to adults, to people who want to see a change in their career. So talking about the most effective ways of working together in the future, For us, the most important thing is digitalization of education, because unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we need to offer distance learning, remote learning to our students, and it would be very important for us, very valuable for us to exchange best practices with our colleagues on digitalization. Work-based learning is another area which would be of great interest for us in the future. Exchange of best practices and partnership with other centers would be the most valuable thing for us, and through the ENE we would like to see this work going forward. Thank you. What else? What else I would like to mention here? What we do locally, we organize meetings with experts from various regions, from various educational institutions. We also send our trainers to upskill them in other centers or vice versa. So this is another area of work which matters to us today. We try to respond very quickly to needs and demands of the regional job market. As soon as we see new areas, new demands, we try to respond very quickly. Now we can see that there is a need for people who know how to work, how to install renewable power stations. And this is a new area for us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are running out of time, so I will extend the second question to Gabriela and Aisha, but just I will give them only 2 minutes to answer, please. So Gabriela, how can we work better in the coming years?
Well, the capacity and the potential of our center should be best used, both within Serbia as well as by networking and through networking with other centers abroad. I will be very brief about what are the expectations from these centers. Each center of excellence must provide a young student or a pupil or somebody who graduated from a formal education the highest level of education. But the tradition of the 21st century is the speed within which the knowledge is being transferred. So I think that these centers should compete to see which center will fastest produce the standard of qualifications in order that a young person can end up at the job market as soon as possible. So our wish and desire is to ensure this speed and also some kind of a competitive atmosphere among these centers. So what is technology and what is the way in which the center will provide a young person the fastest transfer of knowledge? That's how we can compete with the technological development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Aïcha, à toi, 2 minutes aussi pour nous dire comment on peut travailler dans l'avenir.
Aïcha, you have the floor. What do you think? What is your answer to this question?
Moi, par rapport à notre cas en Tunisie, donc
oui.
On va miser.
Yes, absolument. Par rapport à notre pays ici.
On va miser principalement sur le partenariat avec les entreprises Et nous avons entamé quelques expériences pilotes dans ce sens par le montage de plateformes entre un centre de formation et une grande entreprise dans un secteur donné pour développer des compétences en fonction des besoins de l'entreprise. À part les qualifications à la carte en fonction des besoins et qui peuvent être réalisés dans des courts temps, c'est-à-dire sans passer par un cursus très lent pour un peu permettre aux jeunes de s'intégrer dans le marché du travail le plus rapidement possible. Pour nous, ce partenariat, c'est crucial pour que le centre lui-même puisse un peu développer ses compétences en matière, surtout compétences techniques des formateurs et la rénovation de ses équipements, son matériel au niveau du centre de formation avec bien sûr la collaboration des entreprises concernées.
Okay, thank you very much, Aisha. So I cannot see questions for the time being. So I will move to the live Mentimeter poll. So and I will invite you to click on the link that will be made in the chat. And so now we are addressing the same question by the audience. So you can see that there is a link in Mentimeter. Please click on the link to see the question and to answer the question. So the first one will take 1 minute to do. We have 3 questions for you, 3 sets of questions. This is the first one. So which are the 3 most relevant thematic dimensions for cooperation in the framework of ETF Network of Excellence? So here you need to select 3 areas, please. So, and then you will see the second question, which are the most relevant cooperation tools, modalities of ENE services for your center of excellence or country. And here you will see that you have the option. So please select by priority the ways that they are more relevant for your center or your country. And then submit. And we are giving you a third option if you don't find the tool in the proposed tools that we have done in second set of question. Here, this is an open question that we will also ask you to do. So here, you please just write a word or a small sentence, please. So I think we can already see here that the first, we are already at the third. Sorry, I missed the first one. Okay, so the first one is partnership with other center of excellence. This is the most relevant tools and modality, and followed by peer learning activities tool. So can we see the cloud now, please? Okay, here other ways to collaborate. We can see partnerships, mainly, but also mobility in any meanings, creativity, inspiring practices, and distance learning, know-how sharing, etc. So, of course, we will share all these findings with you afterwards. So, and now we still have 30 seconds. So I would like now to conclude this session. Thank you very much. So I would say that my takeaway from these 2 days is that the excellence should be without borders. So at all levels. So borderless in terms of territories, from local to regional to national or even transnational, such as in this case, the case of this cross-country event. Borderless in terms of participation, and so multi-stakeholders and multi-levels, and COFs are models for participatory and multi-level governance. And finally, borderless in terms of innovation, inclusiveness, etc. And here also we have seen so many good practices with our members in this borderless cross-country event. So I am sure that this is the beginning, and that this network will flourish and become a reference and a knowledge hub for excellence in skills development area. Thanks again for the panelists and for the audience, and back to you, Daria.
Thank you so much, Aziz, and thanks a lot to Aziz guest speakers. It was a very interesting conversation, indeed, showing this geographic scope also of the network. I apologize with all participants for some technical issues which we have encountered. I've been told that the bell that I was ringing, no one could hear it, but I congratulate with the speakers because they were extremely amazing in keeping the time themselves. So I was ringing my own bell and just listening myself. Sorry for that. It was a great job anyway, all of you and Aziz. So now we're approaching the end of the conversation. I kindly ask my colleagues, the chat moderators, to share in the respective chats in all languages the link to the feedback form. It's very important for us that you click on that link and you fill it and you let us know what you think of this event, so that we can develop better events in the future, and hopefully very soon develop events in which we can meet in person. That's what we all hope and aim for. There was a question in the chat about the slides. We will be uploading the slides of these 2 days on open space. I also ask here my colleagues from the chat moderators to put the link to the ETF open space in the chats. As of tomorrow, you will be able to access the slides. Plus, on the European Training Foundation website, you will find today a report of yesterday's conversation, and on Monday you will find a report of today's conversation. So go there in case you'd like to read it again, or if you missed some bits. And now I officially launch the closure of the event, and I'd like to give the floor here to my colleagues, Jose Manuel Galvin Arribas and Manuela Prina from the European Training Foundation. 15 minutes to close, and then we're all for lunch. Over to you. Jose Manuel? Please try to speak. You're muted, Jose Manuel. We cannot hear you. It still looks like you're muted. I mean, you're not muted from our side. Maybe if you can check your mic and you can give the floor to Manuela in the meantime. Manuela?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, I then start and then I'll give the floor to Manuel. From my side, closing the event of those 2 days, I would say that we said that this was the second part of the launching conference of the ENE network. We discussed yesterday about areas of work that are already ongoing since last year, and today we put the attention on the future and on areas of work that are emerging as important for the cooperation. I think there were many things that have been confirmed out of the moments of surveys that were done in the 2 days, including the focus on partnership, on sharing practices, on working together. And I think there is a lot that it's here present in the network. I told you yesterday the agenda was extremely rich. And I think, I mean, at least for me, I left each session wanting to know more and discussing more. And this is what we will do in the coming weeks. We will definitely get back to you, because the idea is that even if we cannot travel physically, we want really to focus in the coming months to get to know each other more. So we will definitely organize more opportunities for exchange in smaller groups in different geometries, being it countries or being it sectors or being it thematic, through the entry points we have discussed during those 2 days. So I would say that really the launch of the network is done, and it's very successful. We are growing, and also this morning we received a request from another 30 centers to join in the network. So every day really there is more interest in joining in. This is a network with a lot of competencies, a huge richness of practices and of excellence, which is already happening on the ground. And I think we have now to really continue and to do more together. So to really identify in a specific terms, what are we doing and how we can cooperate around these 3 clusters of partnerships, tools, and peer learning. So from my side, coming to the end, I think we have confirmed that excellence is really very much something that looks into results and looks into an attitude, which is really trying to do the best, listening to the need of society, to the needs of the community, and to the needs of individuals. And I'm really happy to be part of a network where so much excellence is not only in the actions, but also, and in particular, I think primarily in the people who are part of the network. From my side, and we'll see then if Manuel is unmuted, I would like to thank all of you for your time, your contribution. I look forward to meet you in smaller groups so that we can really have a contact. I think the breakout rooms were short, but it was nice to have a conversation more directly with some of you. And I thank, of course, all the ETF team that was part of this double launch in December. And now I think we have a lot of work to do, and I'm happy to be part of this adventure. Manuel, let's see if he...
Can you hear me?
Yes, he's back.
Wow.
So back to you, my dear.
Thank you very much. Actually, Manuela, you anticipate, let's say broadly, what I had to say to let's say, close down and conclude this fantastic 2 days of work. And first thing I want to say is to share a memory with you. I think none of my colleagues, because, you know, Yorgos, with the leadership and fantastic guidance of Yorgos, Stefan, Julian, Also, I want to mention one of our colleagues that we miss, which is Helmut, which was at the beginning of this group, also discussing Pirita. I think the old members, no, the vintage members. We never. I'm sure my colleagues also would have think the impact of that discussion on which we started to discuss to see a network as a potential way of guiding and conveying the message of the excellence through our partner countries and beyond. So I think this is the first thing I wanted to say. So we are so proud and we feel privileged and so pleased to be with you and to have this fantastic family on which on these 2 days we witness that we are here because we want to learn. We are humble people. And I'm reminding now what Joao said at the beginning of these 2 days. We are people that want to learn every day with our strengths and weaknesses. We can bring all of us something new to build together because also we are curious people, as we said at ETF, and we are people that love vocational education to be excellent and lifelong learning, because this network is about lifelong learning. So this is, I think, the main message. We are here for learning and for collaborate. I think we hear in all of our statements during these 2 days these messages. So just what you said in this slide is what was the agenda about. So we are implementing. Yesterday, we shared with you what we are implementing for 2020. So in the areas of self-initiative in work-based learning, autonomy and public-private partnerships, our key and strategic tool, self-assessment tool, and the nice partnership we have in the area, in particular of digitalization with skills in manufacturing occupations. The new thematic approaches we tested yesterday, today, which are mostly based in for this year in our work program in Entrepreneurial Center of Excellence, Entrepreneurial Dimension, and social inclusion and going green and digital. We these thematic strands we will try to improve with you during this year. But our priority also is consolidate and the network, is consolidate with you. For that, Manuela, now is consolidate your participation and your engagement, and but also with quality and continuous improvement. We want to improve all of us. These 2 days we confirm that we want to improve, and we want to do it with quality of our relationship, with quality of our exchanges, with quality of our products. And we indeed want to know you better and deep, and forging a strength, working cooperation and partnership with you, among you, and we try to facilitate. So on these 3 key products, we confirm in these 2 days that partnership tools, peer learning, partnership tools, partnership are our key motive and core action for us. Second slide, please. So just to give you a flavor in the second slide, in the different thematics, so in COBES and work-based learning, self-assessment tool, COBES autonomy and partnership with Skillman, we are work in progress, and we will deliver several products during the year, which will be finalizing a work-based learning study presented yesterday in work-based learning, doing some peer learnings in Latvia, coaching better schools in work-based learning, and integrating also the career guidance dimension. In the self-assessment tool, we will permanent updating and analyzing data because the network is growing. So before this meeting, we have 144 COBES, 8 countries and 6-7 African countries, but Manuela already announced that the family is growing. So and we are very happy for this, but the self-assessment tool will have to be used to continue identifying the needs of development of our network. We will also do in the self-assessment tool one evaluation report And we will launch what we call, yesterday my fantastic colleague Julian presented the platform of practices. We will test this issue with you. So we will be all trying to be learning there, and also in the situation of COVID, we will try to do it online with you. Despite we have in the pipeline, for example, in public-private partnership and autonomy study we present today, also we plan there and a study visit in Finland, which hopefully can do on site, but in the meantime, we will also try to program doing it online. In the partnership with the Skillman, indeed, we are continuing our program in knowledge sharing webinars that also are combining work-based learning dimension and joint expert teams with a special attention to digitalization. The new dimensions, these 2 days, and in particular today, you help us a lot to shape concept and to improve our conceptual approach done up to now. So that the 3 sessions, I thank the people in the network that participate and all that also was in the discussion in the working groups, because we want to shape, let's say, and focus in the best way the conceptual approach, but also we want to launch some the initiatives doing partnerships, in particular what we call also partnership for the time being in ENE is gathering a number of countries between you and we can pass to the next slide. And because the entry point, the key entry point that we already know is that the thematic entry point, the thematic and the sharing thematic knowledge among Center of Excellence, among you, it works very well, and it's key. So the all initiatives and new initiatives are key themes for continue doing partnerships in the network. But we want to explore also co-creation, as Manuela said. We want to explore co-creation between countries, clustering also some of you in sectors, because there are thematic entry points, for example, as digitalization of going green, which will require also a smart partnerships with some sectors on which COVES you are operating, you know, but also connecting the dots in the international panel. We realize with international partners and European partners, we realize that also international partners and European partners are key for mobilizing the knowledge that also can benefit our ETF partner countries. So we want to also explore this dimension of further engagement of European and international community in our network, and we are pleased and open to it. So, and just final praise, so you please continue, because also, you know, this is an educational network at the end, international one. We are composed by network of institutions, some also the appointed, and of course with the super important role of the national authorities for appointing you, and we want to make engage national and regional authorities also, and of course the social partners. But of course, you have to continue doing your working groups and your project in your institutions, and we hope you also inform. We hope also improve our digital platform of ENE. So you should continue identify your training and learning needs and development, and engaging in dialogue in your country, public and private, to also validate and cooperate. Validating this identification and communication need, but you have to also make the individual effort from your country, for your center, for your institution, to convey to the ENE what you need, and to try to help us each other, because indeed we are here for learning from each other. I think this is the key message of these 2 days, and is the best message we have for the time being, and I think is one we want to do. Learning from each other. I want to just close, and I cannot close without thanking all of you, but in particular, I want to thank my colleagues' team. In particular, the first is Loreta Calcaño. I want to thank her very much, but also I want to thank Daria, all you intervening in the agenda, Daria, Manuela, Joao, Florian, Julian, Daniela, Liger, Florian y Stefan, Ilse, Agris, Sanarbek, Filippo, two Filippos, Luis de la Torre, Floriana, Najib, Mervi, Cristina, Yelena, Vera, Eva, Pirita, Nina, Nino, Oleg, Anastasia, Susan, Cristian, Mariajo, María Victoria, Dana, Elin, Mustafa, Lida, Joel, Paolo, Julian, Jean-Paul, Bodegin, Anna, Alexis, and of course our always guiding colleague, Yorgos. Thank you, Yorgos. Aziz, Mijola, Zeynep, Aisha, Kashiman, Gabriela, and other colleagues from the ENE team, who are Michela, Gary, and also the team that help us to do this fantastic 2 days of work, which is Simona, Anna, and I forget somebody for sure, but forgive me. We are a network, as we are a big network and a big family. That's all from my side. You will hear our news, because we want to make a calendar of meetings with you. Sometimes will be bilateral, country, March, April, and that's all for the time being. And just thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Spasibo большое. Tante grazie e muchísimas gracias a todos.
Thank you very much, Jose Manuel and Manuela, for the closing remarks. If I may add to this, I'd like also to thank Mattia, Francesco, Roberta, more particularly from the technical team, for their great support. Thanks a million, everyone. And as we like to say, and as we said at the end of last event, this is not a goodbye, but it is an arrivederci. Goodbye.